Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket. It's not about the winning, it's about how many rules you break. Even in cricket commentary, this is the best advice to take. Pick guerrilla cricket, it's the finest choice you'll ever make. There's so much more to cricket than rev counters and a slice of cake. At first they tried to sanitize us and clean up our act, but people like it filthy, and we know that for a fact. Fidel Castro, Lenny Pascoe, Carlos the Jackal, Umar Akmal, Mahatma Gandhi, Grant and Andy, Brendan Behan, Austin Ian, guerrilla cricket. Stick with us, cause you know we're not the kind of thing that you see on the TV and the radio. So vive la revolution. First they tried to buy us, but we would not be bought. Okay, we were, but then we ran away, and we will not be caught. We would not give up the ghost when they left us all for dead. They decapitated us, but we just grew another head. Jim Mao, Jamie Howe, Ho Chi Minh, Asif Din, Islam Hamad, Douglas Jardine, Graham Savile, Robespierre, Surrender, Jamie Hersey Fender, Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket.
The first full day of Test cricket in 4 months and 10 days belonged very much to Jason Holder's West Indies. After their captain's career best 6 for 42 skittled England for 204 on day 2, 50s yesterday from the run staff, Craig Brathwaite, and the reliable Shane Dowrich saw this most willing of touring sides take a healthy lead, despite the ageless skill of James Anderson and the sheer force of personality of standing captain Ben Stokes. England survived to the close without undue alarm, and the first test of the biosecure era hangs in the balance. Welcome to Guerrilla Cricket's coverage of Day 4 of the first test of the West Indies 3-Test Tour of England, in partnership with hotmic.io, the only in-sync watch party platform for live sports, more of which shortly. And as we continue our pioneering remote live worldwide coverage, every ball live from wherever we are in the world to wherever you are in the world, please, if you've enjoyed our first foray into this brave new remote broadcasting world, spread the word by using the hashtag GCFromHome, he says, pointing the correct way on the camera. I'm Nakulim Pandey, and I have the helm on mic and off today. I'm joined by a fine cast of cricket brains and lockdown fashion choices. Over the course of the day, we'll have Paul Howarth, Gary Naylor, Mash Elson, Patrick Hewitt and Al Hotchkiss. At tea, we'll be hearing once again from former West Indies batting coach Toby Radford. And with me for the opening salvos, it's Sean Nestle Boy Tracy reading your social media messages.
Good morning, everybody.
And expert summariser Annie Chave.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here.
So, Annie, England resume at the Rose Bowl, which is in the vague vicinity of Southampton, at 15 for no loss. The streamlined Dom Sibley is 5 not out. The newly piratical Rory Burns is 10 not out. Deficit of 99. 2 days left, 10 wickets in hand. I think that's quite a test in the offing. What do you make of things?
I think it's really, really well balanced at the moment. Obviously, the Windies are ahead, but it is an absolute pivotal day. We're going to see some... We're going to have to see England really dig in. I hope to see the young new blood getting in and proving themselves, because they're going to have to, really.
Yeah, England's latest new top four, obviously, with Joe Root just having become a father of 2. That was on the first day of the Test match, and now quarantining at home. It's a sort of shootout between Denley and Crawley to see who who gets that gig, and then Sibley and Burns trying to re-establish that opening partnership, which had looked promising after England, I think, bowled reasonably well yesterday. And actually, I think Sean did quite well in restricting the West Indies to a lead of just over 100, particularly given the West Indies were 100 odd for 1 at one stage.
Yeah, I thought the lead was going to be far higher than it is currently. I do think that, as you were alluding to, the top 4, I think the West Indies might have too much for them, and we could see a bit of a collapse, unfortunately. But then you're down to Mr. Stokes, etc. I think it's very interesting. It is a horrible cliche, that the crucial first hour, but
crucial first hour.
it is. This is
crucial first hour. This ain't no TMS.
They can be very nervous
with the tails up instead of a tornado or a storm.
You can hear that jingle, right?
Just about.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be quite nervous going out there. Bit of pressure on them.
England.
We'll see.
England are notoriously bad at their first innings at the moment, and much better in their second innings. So maybe we'll prove that.
Indeed. You have answered the question that I had at the start of the show. Is this a crucial first hour? And please do give us a few early hellos before we jingle up the players from Twitter and our legion of viewers on Crick Tracker and on our own Facebook page and on YouTube.
Oxy Moronica is with us, and he's saying that he doesn't know why Archer seems to be an automatic shoo-in. This is a debate that's been going on. Jay Grover's with us. Morning all.
Morning.
Pirate Badshah at large. Morning Sea Dogs. Martin Lawrence. Hello, nice commentary team to start the day. Well, thank you very much.
Martin.
On our Facebook page, Grubby is watching with us. Hello, Grubby. He's in later. On Crick Tracker, we have Atka Rahman Biplop. That's quite a mouthful for this time of the morning for me. Saju D is with us. He just says Jason Holder. Yeah.
What a man. What a man. What a cricketer.
What a hero.
Sai Raddy says hi and welcome to all you people. Oh, Badri Nath has just said Conti Walsh.
Is that supposed to be Courtney Walsh?
Oh, yeah. But she says Conti.
Oh.
But welcome along, Badri, with your new name for Mr. Walsh.
Lovely stuff. So we are about to get underway, and facing first ball will be this man.
He made huge runs to rumours spread by word of mouth. This guy's really talented. Dominic Sibley.
He restarts on 5 off 34 and will be bowled out by this man who's yet to take a wicket in this Test match.
He ain't no dope, he ain't no weed. That Kemar Roach, he deals in speed.
There goes Kemar Roach.
If you ever wanted to have Mick Fleetwood, Lindsay Buckingham and Murray Walker all in the same jingle. So we've got 4 slips, point, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket and long leg in places. Kemar Roach is starting off from the hotel end, right arm over the wicket to the right-handed Dominic Sibley. It's a lovely day, I'm pleased to say, out there in sort of near Southampton. The sun is beating down upon the West Indies players. I don't see too many jumpers out there as we've seen in the last couple of days. Sibley facing up to the first ball of day 4. In comes Kemar Roach, right arm over the wicket to Dom Sibley, and he leaves outside off stump, taken lowish down by Shane Dowrich, and there is no run. Dom Sibley's game is very much built on leaving the ball outside off stump and letting the bowlers bowl to him early in his innings. Did get him into trouble, of course, in the first innings, being bowled by that nip backer from Shannon Gabriel.
Yes, it wasn't a great look, was it, that one? Great ball though.
Yeah, it did come back quite a long way and kept a little bit low. Gabriel and Holder, the only 2 West Indian bowlers to take a wicket in this Test such far. Roach in with that angle wide on the crease, which can tempt players into playing deliveries they shouldn't probably be playing at, but that's a little wider off stump, and Sibley again leaves alone through to the keeper. There is no run.
You get stuck in a loop of leaving, if you know what I mean.
I think
you sort of forget that you're actually supposed to be there to hit the ball and get runs. I don't know.
I was thinking about this overnight. I don't think England would be that bothered at all if they're 60 for none at lunch.
No,
Oh, no,
it's the wickets that are key, isn't it? Definitely.
Trail by 99, and again outside off stump, and again Kemar Roach not tempting Dom Sibley to play. Very much not left on length. That died through to Shane Dowrich. He took it above his angles. Dowrich batted very well yesterday, I thought. Looked really positive without ever being reckless from the outset.
Yeah, he looked very good, didn't he?
Yeah, and the partnership with Chase was lovely. I mean, Chase being the Test match sort of steady player.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of swapping roles. Dowrich is not normally a fast scorer, and Roston Chase is relatively fluent. Still the 4 slips in places. Kemar Roach is in. 4th ball of the first over the morning, and that's a very well judged lead by Dom Sibley, because that came in as well as the angle that Kemar Roach creates coming wide on the crease from round the wicket, and he leaves as it passes a stump outside off stump, but still very good judgment outside off stump shown early on by Dom Sibley.
He's got in that loop.
He can't do anything else.
I can't hit the ball.
He's frozen.
It's like on Zoom, isn't it? When you get frozen.
Dom Sibley buffers. That's far too wide of off stump, and I don't think many opening batters will be having a go at that very easily for Dom Sibley this time. And that one bounces through to Shane Dowrich, and he's slightly surprised by the bounce and drops it. We're seeing a replay of this delivery we were talking about, where it come back a long way from outside off stump in the first innings from Shannon Gabriel on a pitch that is a completely different colour to the pitch we currently have.
Yes, who'd have put their batsman in, eh?
We'll talk about that later in the day. I still don't think it was an awful decision.
No.
Last ball of the first over of the morning of day 4. He does force Sibley to play. That was a little tight as off stump, and it's a good shot by Sibley. Just knocks it into the offside. Gabriel is not very quick coming in from mid-on, and he takes a single. He moves to 6. England are underway this morning, 16 for no loss, trailing by 98. Carry on with the hellos.
We'll carry on with the hellos when I just excuse me for a second. It's not really in it yet. I've got stuck in a loop like Sibley. So Ralph the Wonderlar is here. He's just he said very early on this morning we're doomed. Muttley, woof woof. His money's on a draw. Love and sausages. And Tim Everington, he's here. Evening Gorilla's got the house to myself and I've ordered the pizza, and he's already guzzling cider. Yeah, Dave Wood, Rap, Gorilla Brothers and Sisters, and Ravi Nair. Good old Ravi. He's with us, and he's got a prediction.
We'll come to
sorry.
We'll come to predictions and how you can turn your predictions into cash a little bit later. We've got quite a few things to plug this morning, so I'm going to get through those at various points. But the thing to plug now is that Shannon Gabriel is bowling from the pavilion end.
Shannon Gabriel.
In comes Shannon Gabriel to Dom Sibley, and again the nudge single into the leg side, Dom Sibley's favourite scoring area.
Shannon Gabriel.
Drop and run between the two openers, and Sibley's onto 7, England onto 17 for no loss. Rory Burns about to face up to his first ball. Shannon Gabriel excellent in the first innings, took 4 for 62, dismissed all of the top 3, Burns, Sibley and Denley, and then wrapped up the innings with the wicket of James Anderson. Back from ankle surgery, Shannon Gabriel, and looking fit and firing.
Ravi's guaranteeing an England win.
Aha!
By the way.
Rare optimism.
Hello, Mog.
Hello, Mog.
And hello, Martin Lawrence.
Greetings. Rory Burns on 10 off 26 was quite solid yesterday. I think England were I don't think England looked that troubled last night.
No.
It was a difficult little session.
Last night when they came out.
Yeah. I think they handled that quite well. So for Rory Burns, Gabriel's coming round the wicket. We've got 3 slips and a gully in position. That's Shea Hope at gully. Certainly Jason Holder is at second slip. I think that's John Campbell at third slip. Or it might be Craig Brathwaite at first slip. I'll try and give you an more clear identification of those men behind the stumps next to Shane Dowrich as Shannon Gabriel comes in. Burns his first ball of the day, and he's in behind that one solidly enough. It kind of skews off the inside part of that defensively proffered bat into the leg side. He wants a single, but Sibley rightly sends him back, and there is no run.
Roger McCann and Tony Bishop have joined us on the Gorilla Cricket Facebook page.
Morning.
Hi guys.
Bit of a busman's holiday for Tony, tuning in on his day off.
Indeed. Vinay Power is with us on Crick Tracker, along with Vaibhav Tihari, who says hi.
Hi, Vaibhav. How are you doing?
It's easy for you to say, Sean.
It's not.
In comes
apologise.
In comes Gabriel from the pavilion end, right arm round the wicket. Easy leave for Rory Burns through to Shane Dowrich behind the stumps, and there is no run. Burns made 30 in the first innings, was LBW to a big in-swinger from Shannon Gabriel, which umpire Kettleborough didn't give, but West Indies reviewed one of about 5 reviews they got absolutely right in the first innings, and it turned out it was smashing down leg stump because of just how full it was. No real
nose with us. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Good morning, fine chimps. Great to have you all back in the cage.
Well, most of the gorillas are in their own special cages, or it's not quite free range, but it's sort of a very widely spread battery farm. Fourth ball of the over as forces Burns to play off the back foot, and he defends it to gully. There is no run.
I wonder how happy Holder is at the moment.
I don't think you can be terribly unhappy if you're the West Indies captain at this point. But obviously he is cognizant of the fact that the lead is not as big as it could have been.
Yeah, it's not quite the 2000 collapse though in the second innings.
Famously that 2000 Test at Lords, where we had parts of all 4 innings in one day.
Oh, yeah.
We got 3 slips and a gully, a backward point, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, and long leg. Thank you, aerial. Thank you, director, for the aerial shot. Gabriel in back of a length, and Burns again defends on the bounce to gully. There is no run. Burns was troubled by the short ball when he was in the West Indies, when he made his Test debut, and throughout the Ashes he was worked over by the Australian fast bowlers, but got increasingly good at playing and leaving and finding a method against the short ball as that series went on. I'm sure the West Indies have evidently done their homework in the time that they've had allowed to them. Shannon Gabriel, last ball of the over, as we see Sky showing us some of the preparations they've made to get this game broadcast in COVID compliant manner.
Are they being tested every day?
Last ball of the over from Gabriel, again defended on the bounce to gully. A little bit of extra bounce, but not too problematic for Burns. 1 run off the over. England 17 for no loss, trail by 97.
Going back to Jason Holder, he's playing away from home, and he's playing one of the top sides in the world, and he's pretty much on top of it really at the moment. He's going to be happy, I think.
I think he should be really pleased with how he's done, really. Maybe not his batting.
We were contacted by Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast, who says, hi guys, great to have you back on, looking forward to listening while out for a run by the river this fine morning. Can we talk about the Joff versus Tino Twitter war?
Oh God!
I didn't know there was such a thing.
Kemar Roachin bowling to Dom Sibley, and again Sibley very watchful outside off stump, watching it all the way through to Shane Dowrich's gloves, and there is no run. Yeah, Tino Best was having a go at Jofra Archer on Twitter again yesterday, and Jofra Archer was put it this way, didn't take to it too kindly as he might have. I thought Jofra bowled quite well yesterday, and the no ball aside, which is obviously his own fault, was a bit unlucky.
Yeah, I think he bowled better than Wood.
I think he bowled better than Stokes, actually, even though Stokes took a 4 for. As Roach is in, you don't bowl on the pads to John Sibley, and that wasn't even really on the pads, it was on middle and off stump, and Sibley's managed to close the bat face on it and turn it around to long leg and take 2. Alzari Joseph flings the ball back in, but there was always going to be 2 runs.
Yeah, Stokes' figures flattered him, I think.
I think so. He didn't bowl badly by any means, but it wasn't 4 for 40 good. I think Archer could easily have had a couple of wickets on another day. I think he gets an assist for the wicket of Shea Hope. Roughed him up considerably, and then Hope trying to branch out and attack Dom Bess, and just giving a simple catch to cover. As Roach is in, that's far too wide of off stump to tempt Dom Sibley, and taken at good height, good carry through to the keeper Shane Dowrich. There is no run.
Yeah, the no ball didn't help either.
No, it didn't.
No.
But as ever, the people who were harsh on Jofra before lockdown are still harsh on Jofra.
Harsh on Jofra, yes.
Harsh on Jofra, harsh on the causes of Jofra, which may be
Yeah, I
truer
think
than than I want it to be.
This time round, it's also because of the dropping of Broad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which adds to it.
as Roach is in wide on the crease. That's full on leg stump, and Sibley's happy to just turn this round the corner to long leg. Takes a single, moves to 10. He's equalled caught up with his opening partner Rory Burns, who's also on 10. Yeah, I wrote a piece for the Guerrilla Cricket website, which was published on Monday, saying that the bowling attack I would have picked with Anderson, Broad and Archer, but that I wouldn't have been terribly surprised if England had been a bit naive and been tempted by the two pacemen, which, as it turns out, is exactly what happened. And Stuart Broad was saying in the press a couple of days beforehand that he feared it might happen.
Yeah, he was quite vocal about it, wasn't he? But
Before
I
and
don't think
after.
Before
and after, yes, his interview yesterday was...
his interview, but I don't think his interview was too contentious, really. I think he was kind of saying it's a shame.
Roach round the wicket to the left-handed Rory Burns. Poor ball from Roach, who's normally so good round the wicket to left-handers. Full on leg stump and another clip round the corner. Alzari Joseph is doing all the fielding this morning. And Burns comes back for 2, moves to 12, England 22 for no less. Yes, but prior to the start of this test match, I'm not sure how the figures have changed, but Kemar Roach, since the start of 2018, averaged 14 round the wicket to left-handers, which is extraordinary.
Yeah, I didn't realise that. That is very good. I think he's bowled quite well, Roach. People have been dissing him a little bit, but I think he's bowled quite well.
Yeah, I don't think he bowled badly in the first innings. Not at his devastating best. That's a very full delivery which swings in a little bit to Rory Burns, and he blocks this with no great power or timing into the offside. There is no run. England 22 for no loss.
We forget that they've all not had any match experience for ages as well. This is the other thing.
Absolutely. I mean, going back to the Broad thing, I think he's in a position where he can say a bit more, given his seniority, and I don't think he was pissed off, and he said he was.
He was pissed off, but
you should be pissed off.
Yeah, no, that's what he was saying. He's pleased he was pissed off.
Yes, that was the most interesting thing of the interview, part of the interview for me.
Yeah.
The fact that he said he was pleased that he was pissed off because it meant that he still cared. Nestlers.
Not a lot on Twitter at the moment, but we've got Viniac VK was the first to comment in the session on Guerrilla Cricket on Facebook, so well done.
Lovely.
We're happy for you. Nur Ali Khan says good, and Arafat Afghar says in country.
Which country?
He just says in country.
I wonder what that means.
He's in the country somewhere.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I'm glad he's in the country and not in an ocean.
He's not stateless. Gabriel into Dominic Sibley. Sibley getting a little bit tucked up on the pads as Gabriel fires that into him and comes off the thigh pad down into the leg side. There is no run. We did see Dom Sibley get strangled down the leg side in one of the warm up in the intra-squad game by Jofra Archer, and it's been a little bit of an issue for him.
Yeah, he does definitely get a little bit tied up, doesn't he?
Yeah, although he does love scoring through the leg side and making bowlers bowl to him very much. Still the 3 slips and a gully, backward point mid on, sort of forward square leg, kind of squarish mid wicket, and a long leg in place as Gabriel charges in from the pavilion end, right arm over the wicket to Rory Burns, and that's a comfortable enough defensive shot to Sibley in behind that one comfortably into the leg side, and there is no run. I'm going to do a little plug at for our friends and new partners at Hot Mic at the end of the over.
I think it could be a very, very long day in the field for the Windies. I'm afraid.
Either or.
Speaking of long,
well, of course. If I predict that, it'll be completely different. So.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of long days, I assume we've got the same session times as yesterday, where tea is going to be 15 minutes later, and we can go through to 7 o'clock to try and get through all the overs.
I assume so too.
Haven't seen anything as yet. If anyone out there can let us know, please do tell us. Jason,
we have got a lot of time to catch up after the first day.
Certainly did. After the first 2 days, we still had a full day's play at that point. But we did get a full uninterrupted day of Test cricket yesterday, and hopefully so today. Poor delivery from Shannon Gabriel well outside off stump, and Sibley, who is not a particularly habitual player of the cut shot, leaves alone through to the keeper. There is no
He likes to
run.
leave, doesn't he, Sean?
He loves to leave. It's his thing.
Yeah, so he's in a loop. Has anyone in authority come up with any ideas about the players using beard oil on the ball?
Well, not beard oil again.
Haven't said.
Yeah, I'm quite fascinated by that because it's it's an outside agent, isn't it?
I certainly don't think it'd be allowed, but
Yeah,
Don't you dribble on your beard?
not generally.
Well, it depends what state you're in, really. What time of night?
Fourth ball of the over from Shannon Gabriel, again left alone outside off stump by Dom Sibley. A little bit of movement into the left-hander and right-hander, and again it kept a little bit low, but no real alarm through to the keeper. There is no run.
We've got our first recreational game tomorrow, so...
Oh yeah, you're scoring for that.
I'll be scoring, yeah.
Where are you playing?
Tipton St John in Devon.
Fine middle order batters for the Leeward Islands.
Yes, no, I can't wait. But we've got lots of things we've got to set up first. All kinds of... we're only allowed 30 people on the pitch to start with.
Right. Gabriel coming in up to the crease now, right arm over the wicket, and bowls short ball down the leg side, trying to test out Don Sibley in that sort of hip and armpit area, but that was too far down the leg side, and Dowrich skips across to take, and there is no run.
I wonder if there are a lot of listeners who've got their first game today, or
I think so. It's the first first time that recreational cricket has been allowed.
It's going to be very difficult for a lot of small clubs to do the social distancing and all
So
this, isn't it?
difficult.
Well, I was just thinking about this. Like, I don't have a car. I've
Yeah,
always
no,
relied
you
on.
won't be able to get lifts.
I was always relying on lifts.
We've lost a few people because of that, because we can't get them there.
Wow.
Because in Devon there's so many grounds in the middle of nowhere that you can't find.
And public transport in the southwest is awful.
Oh my God, there isn't such a thing.
Last ball of the over from Shannon Gabriel, back of a length, and forcing Sibley to play this time on off stump, and he's solidly behind it. Drops it down in front of him. There is no run. England 22 for no loss, trail by 92. So yes, Hot Mic. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we're delighted we've partnered up with Hot Mic. They are the only guaranteed way to sync up our ball-by-ball commentary to your TV pictures. You can watch along and chat with other viewers as you do it. And the way that this works, you go to hotmic.io or download the Hot Mic app from the App Store or Google Play Store. Sign up and enter the code GC Radio. That's GC Radio, no spaces in that. Once you're in, follow the on-screen instructions to sync up our commentary to the TV. You get a vastly enhanced cricketing experience, and by signing up with that code GC Radio, you help to support the show. Lovely. We'll be hopefully telling you a little bit more about that as the game goes on, and we do have a few people watching us on that there Hot Mic.
Good. Yeah, sign up for that, folks.
Yeah, every person who signs up, we get a little bit of cash. So please do.
It costs a fortune for us to keep the bear in beers.
Yeah, it really does.
Roach continuing around the wicket. They've moved one of the slips out into reinforce the leg side now for Rory Burns. Roach in back of a length, and Burns drops this into the onside. There is no run. So there's now 3 slips, 2 men up in the offside at point and mid off, 3 men up in the leg side at mid on, who is quite close and quite wide. Got a mid wicket and a backward square leg up in a circle. Not a circle, but what the circle would be, and a long leg. So Roach might be looking to bowl a little bit straighter at Rory Burns with this angle from round the wicket. In he is from the hotel end, right arm round the wicket, and he was trying to bowl a little bit straighter, but Rory Burns is pretty good off his toes, and he turns this nicely through the leg side. Jermaine Blackwood it is at mid wicket, chases this back to the boundary and hauls it in, and they come through for 2. This big Aegeus Bowl playing area. Burns moves to 14.
I'm almost getting used to these two, their stance. Burns and Sibley both just looked so ridiculous to start with. When I
both a little bit unorthodox. Both very much looking. Sorry, Annie. Both very much looking to get they're sort of exaggerating their body position to try and get the bat down straight through the line of the ball. And Rory Burns, of course, looking slightly to his leg side to keep his dominant eye in line with the ball, which he's talked about a little bit. That's defended from the crease out on the bounce to point, and there is no run.
Dave Woods says the Beard Dribblers would be a great franchise name. And Muttley has sent us a picture of his mini English breakfast. It's all the bacon, black pudding, eggs, and everything. Yeah.
So they're not quite full English.
Yeah, he's called it a mini English. Looks quite it looks a bit more larger than mini to me. But there you go, Muttley. Good on you, sir.
A hearty woof to you. As Kimar Roach is in back of a length, a little bit of bounce, and Burns plays it solidly enough on the bounce to third slip, and there is no run. More plugging to do at the end of the over. We've got a GPL to plug.
Oh yeah. Well, we've also been joined by Happy Ferret. Hi guys, I usually listen to your dulcet tones at work via the archive since finding you last year. First time watching live, appreciating the floral shirt, or might be toucans, can't quite see.
Birds of Paradise. On my
Birds of Paradise, there you go.
Oh, welcome
along,
yeah.
Happy Ferret.
Well done for finding us live. I hope you've enjoyed our archive, which has been the World Cup solidly in lockdown times. Back of a length from Roach, and Burns turns it away off his hips down into the leg side, and John Campbell chases from backward square leg. They come through for a single. Burns moves to 15. Raheem Cornwall's obviously been having a net. I really do hope we see him at some point during this series. Have we lost Annie?
Annie!
Where's she gone?
Annie! Oh dear. Hope she's alright.
Yeah, we temporarily are a commentator down, but we'll work around that, I'm sure. There's a slight change to the field. John Campbell is being told to come in at the off-Hayden position, or the on-Hayden position, rather, for Dom Sibley. That fielder very close to the cut strip, just on the leg side, and Roach is in back over the wicket to Sibley, who defends on the bounce to point, and there is no run.
The Crick Tracker Knackle fan club is here, and Andrew Garg says, "Knackle, sir, your commentary so good."
Oh, thank you.
Elias Shazad, Pakistan Zindabad. Oh yes, about time we had one of those.
Yeah, indeed. Don't know when. Of course, Pakistan will be playing England later this summer. I was thinking actually we were talking about great artists with the red ball and the fact that Jason Holder is at no great pace. Mohammed Abbas, my friend. Mohammed Abbas is a hell of a bowler. End of the over, 15 for no loss, 15 gone, 25 for no loss, England 89 behind. Yes, the GPL, as ever, we're running the GPL, our daily game of cricketing nouse, where you can win money by predicting the number of runs that will be scored in today's play. You can guess as many times as you like. Each guess costs £1. The pounds go in a pot, and if your guess is bang on, no nearest to the ball, you get the pot. You have to be run perfect. The pot starts today at a tidy £37. Go to gorillacricket.com/competition and follow the on-screen instructions to play. You have until lunch to enter. That's 1 p.m. UK time. I might just bring Al into the broadcast so that we're up core, and let Al do some summarising, and we'll try and locate Annie Chave wherever she's gone.
Oh, here he is.
Welcome, emergency relief. We weren't expecting the rotor to go wrong this early.
Tonight, Matthew, I will be Annie Chave.
Singing live. So Shannon Gabriel continues. Right arm round the wicket to the left-handed Rory Burns, who's forward in behind this one and blocks up to cover where Kimar Roach fields in the mid-off rather, and there is no run. I think Annie might have failed to plug something in, so has just rejoined on another device. So it was a good time, but not a long time. Al, we'll see you shortly.
First time, long time. Goodbye.
Annie, what happened?
Oh, she's on mute.
Sorry about all this, folks. We temporarily lost a commentator, but said commentator is back. England 25 for no loss after 15.1 overs, and trail by 89 as Shannon Gabriel comes in. Lovely shot by Rory Burns. He's very firmly into that drive. Square drive, races away past point for the first boundary of the morning.
It's Nissan She. It's Nissan She.
Annie, did you fail to plug your laptop in or something?
No, I just got thrown out. But at the moment, I'm on my iPad.
I see that.
Yes, trying to work, trying to get it set up in another room to see whether the internet's better in that room.
Oh, I see. South Coast Wi-Fi. Southwest Wi-Fi problems. England 29 for no loss, trailing by 85. Burns on to 19. Lovely square drive that was by Rory Burns off a not especially full delivery from Shannon Gabriel. Continues right arm over the wicket, and of course the fast bowler goes a little bit shorter, having just been driven, but that's leg sidey and is nudged round the corner by Rory Burns. It might be a leg by. In fact, I didn't see the umpire's signal, but yes, it is indeed a leg by. So 30 for no loss, but Burns remains on 19.
I might be doing a commentator's curse here, but England, these two are playing this quite well at the moment, aren't they?
Hasn't been a great deal of threat so far from Roach or Gabriel. Seeing the odd one get bounce a little bit more actually from Roach than from Gabriel. Maybe the hotel end has a little bit more bounce to it than the pavilion end that Gabriel's bowling from. But and the lines have been a little bit off from both Gabriel and Roach. As Gabriel's back over the wicket to Dom Sibley, who's on 10. That's a very full delivery on the toes and worked away by Sibley. It's a long chase for Roston, and he's not going to get there, perhaps weighed down by those 2 caps on his head. Obviously the umpire's not allowed to take caps. And the second bounder of the over, the first to Dom Sibley. Middle stump half volley. Dom Sibley says, "Thank you very much." Annie, is there any way we can you can sort of tilt your screen a little bit, because we can only see sort of the bottom part, sort of the top part of your head. If you can tilt the screen up a bit. Ah, there we go. That's nope, down, other down. There we go, much better.
Well, hopefully I'm not going to stay like this for very long. This is the plan. No. I do apologise. I had no problems with the internet yesterday whatsoever, so I don't know quite what happened.
Change in the field. A man's gone back at deep square leg. Got 2 slips in the gully. 2 men back on the hook for Dom Sibley, and a mid-wicket and a mid-on. So it's a very split field. Gabriel in back of a length outside off stump, and Sibley leaves on a combination of line and length over the top of off stump through to the keeper. There is no run.
We've got Richard 999 from Spain, from sunny Spain. Great to have Gorilla back, he says.
Is that one of the famous 999 brothers with Gary?
It's great to be back, though, isn't it?
It's lovely to be back.
We've that we can do this.
We've not had any cricket for 4 months on Gorilla Cricket, and we're absolutely loving being able to bring this to you around the world, and doing so safely, which is absolutely paramount, of course. Last ball of this rather wayward over from Shannon Gabriel. He's been square driven for 4, he's been leg glanced for 4, and then he bowls a rather wasted delivery outside off stump, which Sibley lose through to the keeper. There is no run. He's on 14, Rory Burns on 19. England 34 for no loss, trail now by just 80. The final plug. You thought the plugging was done. We are a ruthlessly commercial operation, as you well know. So we've got one more money-making wheeze up our sleeves. Those sleeves being the sleeves of these limited edition Gorilla Cricket T-shirts. We've got a select run of assorted GC merchandise, including our 2015 Ashes shirt from when we broadcast live from the jet lag bar. No Surrender Percy Fender. Tour dates and everything, like we're a rock band. And our thing that has just fallen down the back here. This we believe in a bigger World Cup T-shirt, which is so good the ICC tried to ban us when we started selling these during the World Cup. As long as we've got stock, if you become a $10 or above a month patron at patreon.com/Gorilla Cricket, you get a T-shirt of your choice thrown in from what we've got. We've got a range of different sizes, some women's sizes, some big men's sizes. I break off as Kemar Roach is in, starting the 17th over, and it's clipped nicely by Rory Burns and powerfully out into the leg side. They will come back for 2. The throw wasn't particularly good. Had it been over the top of the stumps, Burns might have been struggling, but as it is, he was able to come back for 2 quite comfortably. We do know that we have a sub-fielder on, and Kruma Bonner is on for someone. I'll try and give you a sense of who that is. And Annie Duncan-Chave is now broadcasting to us from the library, it seems.
Good old Annie.
All fun and games. We've got some we've got some t-shirt stock in various sizes, men's and women's, and but it's not a comprehensive range. So what you do if you become a $10 Kemo Roach is bowling. Stopping me plugging. Roach is in, continuing round the wicket. Drive from Rory Burns, doesn't time it particularly well, and cover is able to make a sprawling stop. There is no run. If you as long as we've got stock, if you become a $10 or more a month patron at patreon.com/Gorilla Cricket, as well as all the other goodies that it gets you, like being on our Scroll of Honour, which is going across the bottom of our video feeds on Facebook and YouTube and Hot Mic, and Gorilla Cricket podcast bonus content, which is a thing we've been doing from the podcast that I host, the Gorilla Cricket podcast, and it gets you a free limited edition t-shirt. So sign up at patreon.com/Gorilla Cricket. Kemar Roach is in, very full, and an easy block from Rory Burns. Back to the bowler, there is no run. Annie, is this the summer library?
I've made it into my son's room.
Aha! Presumably said son is not there to be worried about being turfed out.
Well, no, he's downstairs watching the cricket.
Ah, sensible lad.
Yes, I've got a lot of Doctor Who books and things.
Oh, very good.
Yes. But yes, apologies. He seems
No
to
worries.
have a better Wi-Fi in here.
A lovely shot by Rory Burns. Not a half volley and not particularly straight. It was outside off stump, but he punches this beautifully past the dive of Shannon Gabriel at mid-on. 4 runs to Rory Burns.
The number of the day. Who could ask for more? The number of the day is 4.
Well, got the impression that unless that was a lot closer to Shannon Gabriel, he wasn't going to get there.
No.
It looks to me like we are going to see England in for a while.
Commentators
The
curse.
pitch, the pitch doesn't appear to be doing a great deal at the moment.
No.
It's very straw-coloured. We did see Dom Best get some turn yesterday. In fact, he was denied an LBW because the ball turned too much at one point. That's full outside off stump, and that's a much better timed cover drive from Rory Burns. Good stride into the ball, but again, straight to cover. There is no run.
Do you think we'll see a bit of spin here then?
I wouldn't be surprised if things get to the point where Roston Chase has a bowl before lunch. I was thinking actually overnight that if Roston Chase bowling would be a sort of moral victory for England. You know, not that he's a bad bowler, and England don't need to be told that he can be a very useful customer, but he's not a specialist spinner, and I don't think the West Indies would want him to bowl very many overs. Last ball of the over from Kemar Roach, his 9th, the 17th rather, of the innings, and Burns doesn't quite know what's happened there. It kept a little bit low, and he tried to defend into the leg side, comes off the bottom inside corner of the bat into the pad, but no real alarm, and there is no run. England 40 for no loss, have added 25 this morning for the loss of no additional wicket, and they trail now by just 74 runs. So a fairly decent start for England this morning in this first half hour. The first half hour has very much been England's.
Indeed. Wai Pom is wondering how big Raheem Cornwall's breakfast was. Messi Jez wants to know, and he says, good evening all. Good evening, Messi.
Hello.
And he's
Hello,
concerned
Messi.
about limited to 30 people on the pitch. Has me wondering whether Devon cricket has somewhat different rules to the rest of us.
Why?
Well, 30 people on the pitch.
Well, you've got 22
No.
players, 2 umpires.
Yeah, scorers.
On the pitch.
As
Peop-
Shannon Gabriel's in continuing no change of bowling as yet from Jason Holder, even though his opening bowlers haven't been terribly effective. Sibley defends this with loose hands, and so the bat turns to and the ball dribbles out to square leg, and there is no run.
We have families that want to come and watch, you know.
Mog says, complaining about the cricket getting in the way of the advertising. He's setting you up nicely for the Channel 9 stable of callers, Knuckle.
Hello. We're, as I say, ruthlessly commercial.
Ruthless, absolutely. That's
Marty Q has sent us a lovely picture from Marbella, where he's listening to us on the beach, indeed.
Hope you live there and haven't gone there on holiday, because I'm not quite sure about package holidays in these COVID times. Full delivery, and Dom Sibley lunges at that one and blocks it up to mid-on. There is no run. Shannon Gabriel up at 89 miles an hour on that delivery. But hasn't looked terribly threatening so far this morning.
No, there hasn't been a lot of threat at all, has there? And no overturns.
No appeals yet.
No.
Yeah, the interchangeable Richards have had a bad test match, particularly Illingworth.
Oh, yeah.
It can happen.
Yeah,
Thank God we've got DRS.
there haven't been howlers, have there? I don't really remember any howlers.
As Shannon Gabriel's in, third ball of the over. A good bouncer this time, but Sibley plays it well, falling to his knees and swaying inside the line of the ball and letting it pass through to Shane Dowrick behind the stumps. There is no run. I wouldn't say howlers, but there have been some ones where the percentages were not in the umpire's favour very much.
Oh yeah, definitely. But you're not. We certainly saw some howlers before. So in the Ashes, for example.
Annie, you've got Mog excited.
Have I? Why? What have I done?
Doctor Who books. Is there a copy of Lung Barrow amongst them? He said.
Oh, I'll ask my son because there's so many. I don't want to get. I will get back to you on that, Mog.
As Gabriel's coming in, fourth ball of the over, none for 14. He is off 6.3 overs, left alone very comfortably by Don Sibley with a little bit of a flourish of the bat over the top of his head through to the keeper. There is no run.
And Muttley tells us he's going to be 40 on the 26th, and it brought up the England 40, so I think that's why he's telling us that. Well, happy birthday for the 26th.
Yeah. Well, I imagine we'll be doing a test match on the 26th, so we can.
It's a while away, but that's very interesting.
Enjoy your 30s while you can.
Yeah, not many days left in your 30s.
40's the new 30 anyway, isn't it, or something?
You nearly said the new 50, didn't you?
26th will be the third day of the third test, so we'll give you a shout then. Still the three slips in place. Point mid off. It was almost extra cover. He's that wide. Mid on, mid wicket and long leg as Gabriel's in. Very full delivery. Looking for a little bit of in swing. And Sibley, well, it started life as a forward defensive, but it ends up being a sort of drive as Kemar Roach comes around from mid on to field. They come through for a single. That's sort of a forward defensive with benefits. He just sort of put the bat there, and he wasn't really that bothered about where it ended up.
Yes.
Very good.
Well, these two are looking quite comfortable when they can look comfortable, because I think I left you when I was asking you about their stance and didn't hear your answers, and these two are looking comfortable, even if they do look a bit strange.
Yeah, I mean they have methods that are peculiar to their
Steve
styles and what they want to do. Burns with his dominant eye that he's talked about, which is why he sort of looks over his head to mid on.
And his sticky out bottom as well.
Yeah, a little bit just to counterbalance, counterbalance him a little bit. And Dom Sibley with his stance, which is very much designed to bring the bat down straight and not push outside the line of off stump. But they've both scored a lot of runs in county championship cricket in the last couple of years, and it's what they've been picked to do. Very full delivery on the toes from Shannon Gabriel. I say on the toes, really on sort of middle and off stump, and whipped by Burns out to square leg for a single. He'll keep the strike. He's on 26. England after 18 overs, 42 for no loss. How many overs have we had this morning? So we ended yesterday. If we just bring up that, so we had 10 overs yesterday, so we've had 8 overs this morning, and England have added a further 32 runs, 4 and over this morning, and really they haven't tried to do anything.
No.
One for you, Knackle.
Hello.
Because you're better at this sort of thing than me. Andrew Garg on the Cricket Tracker website he's from India. He wants to know how he can donate.
Yeah, we can do all that kind of thing. Yes, as I said, patreon.com/Gorilla Cricket, and you can become a regular donor to us through that, and you get a bunch of bonus content. If you sign up at $10 or more a month, not only do you get on our scroll of honour that goes along the bottom of our Facebook and YouTube feeds, you also get exclusive GC bonus podcast bonus content, and for a limited time only, a Gorilla Cricket limited edition t-shirt, various sizes and shapes available.
How many have we got left?
Some. We've got a bedroom's worth, I think. We do have a change of bowling, and we were calling for this, and Jason Holder has gone to his semi-part-time spinner relatively early.
Austin Jason, what do you get? Cricketer, a village in Somerset. I did some research and when I was done, turned out that he's a man, that son of a gun.
Man of the match in the Barbados test, wasn't he?
Must have been Holder with his double 100.
No, it was Chase.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
Chase did take an 8 for 60 in that second innings.
Yes.
So we've got a short leg in place, which is Shea Hope at forward. short leg, slip in place as well, which isn't Jason Holder, which is a little bit unusual. Chase in with his very languid action, like a slow motion film of Carl Hooper. Right arm round the wicket from the hotel end, and Burns blocked back to the bowler. There is no run. Yeah, the other way you can donate is via PayPal. So the address to send us things via PayPal is gorillacricket@gmail.com. So Anuj, that's how you donate to us. Chase is in as the Clouds come overhead and then part almost immediately. As ends up as a full toss, and Burns punches this to mid-off and takes the single. Have seen Dom Sibley get a little bit tied down against spinners. We saw on his debut against New Zealand. Was that his debut? I think it was, wasn't it? His debut against New Zealand. He got completely stuck against Mitchell Santner and looked awful at times, but he did seem to improve that. Started playing Keshav Maharaj better as that South Africa series went on. We got the slip in the short leg, the deep point, which Don Best was very interesting talking about yesterday on Sky. Cover mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, and man, not quite on the 45, but at backward square leg. Come to what Chase was, what Best was talking about the deep point. We will have a change at the end of the over, by the way, so I don't really have too much time to get this point in. Chase over the wicket, another full toss, and Sibley just waits for it and rolls the wrists on it and takes an easy single up to Gabriel at mid-on, who they're almost targeting for these singles. Yeah, he was saying that the deep point for him was an attacking move, because he actually wants players, the right-handers, to be trying to fiddle singles out against the turn with an open face, because it says if it's not turning, it brings the keeper and slip into play, and if it is turning, it brings short leg into play. Because it was Don Best spoke very well about his bowling on Sky yesterday. It's very
he's a bright guy.
Chase in. He does pitch this one, and a tiny hint of straightening and a poor bit of fielding by the man John Campbell coming around from backward point means that what could have been none is going to be 3, I think. Very easy 3 for Rory Burns.
It could be just me. It often is. But does Chase look a little bit like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
I mean, he's not that tall, but he is quite tall. He's probably probably 6'3", 6'4". He's got quite sort of long features, quite thin.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Extremely thin. Yeah.
So, I don't know who he is. Look him up.
So he's in Naked Gun. As Ruston Chase is in... Sorry, Airplane. Sorry. He's in Ruston Chase, and Sibley blocks into the leg side. There is no run. Yeah, we will have a change. So Grubby's going to take over on ball by ball, his first time for this series. Annie is going to move to social media messages. Gary's going to take over summarising, and I'm going to be here pressing buttons. Ooh, a little bit of a false shot from Dom Sibley. That dipped on him a little bit and took the inside part of the bat, and he takes the single through to the man on the 45. He moves to 16. England 47 for no loss after 19. We will have that change, as we just shuffle things around. Nestlers, we're gonna say goodbye to you temporarily, and we're going to say a very good morning to Grubby and to Gary.
Good morning, everyone. Hello Annie. Hello Gary. How are you? And thank you, Nethel.
I'm in mid-season form. I hope you all are too. Just before we lose Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jesper and I, my son was we were watching The Stand, the 1980s kind of mini-series, and there's a guy in that who sort of rings the bell and says the end is nigh, and Jesper literally said, "Hey, you're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar," because it was indeed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
The Stand, as in based on the Stephen King novel.
Yeah, it's not an entirely successful mini-series, but if you want to spend a very enlightening lunch hour, read some of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's writing. Some of it's in The Guardian, and you'll find it in the New York Times and places like that. He's a pretty deep thinker about sport, about life, and many other things, and a great man, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Okay, Gary, if you say so. I will do.
It's going to be Captain Jason Holder who's going to bowl to Rory Burns. He's on the back foot, playing us defensively into the offside, and there is no run. It's 47 without loss. England will be pretty satisfied with the first 40 minutes of play. No wickets lost. Looks like a fairly decent day for batting. Annie, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I did say I think it's going to be a long day in the field for the Windies. They seem to... England seem to be batting in the right conditions now for them.
Yeah, this has happened quite a few times in recent years, I think. Here comes Holder again over the wicket to the left-handed Burns. He's on the back foot and cutting this one in front of point. In fact, it spins away behind point. He's timed that pretty well, and it races into the boundary sponge.
1 2 ka 4 4 2 ka 1. My name is Lakhan. My name is Lakhan.
In fact, it was way behind square, that one. Leant back and timed it well. This one beats him on the outside edge. He fiddles at it outside the off stump. It's through to the keeper. He'll be a bit cross about that one.
Yeah, you were saying that this happens quite a lot. But what, the England...
It's happened a few times in recent years, isn't it, where England have a poor period or start the game badly and then
They seem to be starting the game badly all the time at the moment. I can't.
And yet the odds that the bookmakers are offering. I mean, I think at the end of yesterday you could still have 5-4 against the West Indies, and given they had a lead of over 100 in the first innings, you think, oh, it's incredibly generous. Holder again, a fuller delivery this time in Burns, shoulders, arms. It's through to the keeper. There's no run. He had 34, Sibley 16.
I have a question for you, Grubby. What have guerrilla cricket and England got in common at the moment?
Soft underbelly.
Could be.
Thanks very much. Speak for yourself.
I mean, as a collective, Annie. As a collective.
Well, both guerrilla cricket and England have got 2 South London boys at the crease.
Well, how true those words are, spoken even today. This one is defended back at the track.
You've been working on that for ages, haven't you, Gary?
Well, it's both Sibley and Rory Burns went to Wicket School, and it's even more remarkable in that Wicket School also is the alma mater of Jason Roy. So 3 England current openers all went to Wicket School. I once saw Surrey playing at Wicket School, and Jason Roy hit the first ball of the match out of the ground.
as is his wont, yes.
Holder slants on a cross. Burns, he's having nothing to do with that. Again, it's through to the keeper. It's the end of the over. England remain 51 without loss. And Knack was just telling us that both of them not only went to the same school, but both born in the same hospital. I wonder if that's St George's near us, Gary.
It says Epsom, so it's more likely.
Not the same day, though, surely. Can I do some tweets?
Yes, please, Annie.
Derek Willis says, Roston Chase isn't going to be a part-time bowler today, I fear. Mog says, I miss Kyle Hope. Or to be more transparent, I miss Kyle Hope's fucking excellent jingle. Batley says, I've been watching via Facebook. Speaking of Roll of Honour, is the ticker tape no longer in alphabetical order?
It's amazing what people notice, isn't it?
Yes.
They don't like change.
Oh, Chase is up.
Yep, Chase is back on. Sibley back in his crease and tucks it away on the leg side, and there's no run. I do like Chase's beard.
Yes, well, you were.
Well, I'm a big hognophile, I think is the word.
Do you use beard oil?
I've used a bit this morning, but I don't regularly. But obviously for you lot. This is tucked into the leg side and it's into a gap this time, and Sibley gets off strike.
So what does it do, beard oil?
I think it's kind of like conditions it a bit.
Does it?
Yeah, it makes it a bit softer. It can get quite bristly and wiry when it grows quite long.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Softens and shapes, says Knackle from the very green room. And it is very green if you're watching us.
It is very green.
Chase is going to come round the wicket to the left-handed Burns, who is forward in defence very correctly, playing it back to the bowler, and there is no run. It's 52 without loss. And yeah, conditions do look a little easier. It looked a bit arse squeaky last night, didn't it? And the ball was going up and down from the seamers a little bit. But a bit flatter this morning, and Burns uses his feet this time and tucks it into mid-wicket where there is a fielder, Captain Jason Holder.
What do you think to Stokes' decision to put them in?
I don't disagree with the decision. As ever, it depends how your team bats, and England didn't bat particularly well. This spins and beats Burns on the outside edge. Extravagant turn there from Roston Chase. A genuine play and miss as the sun breaks through in Southampton. Yeah, so it's almost like we start series quite slowly, quite frequently, it seems, and
really badly. We really do have a bad
slip in
record
place here and a forward short leg, but this one is turned to that short mid-wicket position where Captain Holder does the fielding once again. It's the end of the over.
This looks to me like the kind of pitch that you're never in on, because there's always a ball that's going to jump and turn a little bit, like one from Roston Chase in that over. There's always one that's going to keep a little bit low. There's always one that's going to seam a little bit more.
Yeah, right from the start it did, didn't it?
Yeah.
Is it a bit like the Blackadder with why are you carving your name into that bullet, Baldrick? You know they say that somewhere there's a bullet with your name on it. Well, I thought if I owned the bullet, I wouldn't never get shot.
It's a cunning plan. I think it shows in the fact that nobody's really gone on to get any kind of score. There's been a few 50s, but not much beyond that. And I think what that shows is you've got to make a good start. You've got to have a bit of luck, as you always do as a batsman in the first 10, 20 deliveries that you face. But once you've get in, you've got to cash in. Hit the 4 ball for 4.
World's best all-rounder and West Indies captain Jason Holder into the crease, and he bowls. Sibley defends it up to mid-on, and there's no run. Is that right, though? I heard you talking before I came on that despite the fact he scored a double 100 in Barbados, he didn't get the Man of the Match award, and that went to Western Chase.
As you know, I was there.
Well, I'd forgotten.
Yes, I was there, and you're welcome. And I actually was on the pitch at the end, and I remember him, Chase, being interviewed as the Man of the Match. So.
Well, 8 for 60, certainly.
I might be wrong. If someone wants to tell me that I was wrong, then that's fine. But I think I'm right in this.
Sibley almost got squared up by that one, looking to play it to mid-on. It almost leading edges it up to mid-off, and there's no run, gets away with it.
Hey, Gary Mogg says if you're a fan of The Stand, you'll be happy to know a new adaptation is coming.
Yes, that's why we were watching the mid-90s version, so we didn't see them in the wrong order, so to speak. Yes, there is one due out in July, I think, which is where we are now.
This one off the inside edge, and it runs down to long leg. Is that going to go all the way to the boundary? I think it is, and it is a rather streaky 4. Dom Sibley looking not entirely comfortable here against the world's best seamer, as Knuckle has reminded us. He's just been a terrific performer the last couple of years.
Seamer and swinger, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean he's primarily a hit the deck bowler, I would say, Jason Holder, but he's certainly no little skill.
And from the highest height, is that a saying?
Not quite Joel Garner, is he, Annie? But not that far off. Here comes Holder again. A couple of slips in place and a gully. This one is allowed to pass through to the keeper by Sibley. Looking a bit more comfortable there. The score has moved on to 56 without loss.
Yeah, I saw somewhere where his release point I think was 2.38 metres, because I remember it being a little below Javier Sotomayor's world high jump record, which I think is still 241.
How do you know that?
Amazing, these things just lodge in your brain, isn't it?
It's been a world record for about 25 years, so every time you watch any high jump, it appears.
Look out for it.
Oh, and again, a bit fuller this time, and Sibley just reaching for it a little bit. Slightly inside edgily, down to backward square leg. And he comes through for a single, moves on to 22. The score to 57 without loss. 1 ball left in the 22nd over. England won't be too worried about the number of overs that have ticked by. It's just a case of occupying the crease and seeing what happens. Still almost 2 days left of this test match. And it could be a fascinating one.
Well, it is.
Yeah, I think Holder missed a bit of a trick there with Dominic Sibley, because I think you do. You know how much I enjoy a leg slip, but I think with the way he plays with bat out in front of his pad there, and the ball jumped a little bit, took it inside edge, as he said, 4 streaky runs, Grubby. Had he had a man round the corner at kind of leg gully or leg slip, he'd be in the game. And I do think the way this pitch is seaming and with a bit of capricious bounce, they should have a man there.
Ooh, half an appeal there as it hits Burns sort of amidships and just drops down in front of him. That completes the over. Bit of a wry grin there from Burns. Close to an appeal and close to being painful, I should imagine. Now, I just want to say, isn't it beautiful? Isn't it lovely just to be back, everyone? The last time the 3 of us were together, or the 4 of us indeed, with Knuckle over there in the corner, was we were indulging ourselves by reminiscing about our cricket days of yore, weren't we?
Was that in January?
No. A month or 2 ago, when we talked about our early cricketing memories.
I see. Oh, you mean? Sorry, on Zoom.
Talking of memories,
yes.
your recent one's obviously gone.
Yes.
Obviously made a big impression on you that day, Annie. You sent your twin, didn't you? Roston Chase into bowl again, and this is turned into the leg side by Sibley, stretching forward, using his height and reach. Shed a bit of timber, isn't he, Sibley? I don't know if it suits him massively. He looks a bit sort of, when you lose a load of weight and your casing looks a bit baggy.
Yes, absolutely. I thought
forward
that.
And defending this one as well into the leg side. when Nigel Lawson lost all that weight, and it just looked, he had this massive wattle dangling under his
you could imagine he was tying up all the fat somewhere.
He's back in his crease playing this one. Sibley, turning it square of the wicket on the leg side, and they come through for a very comfortable single.
Loath as I am to criticise Jason Holder with his record and his tremendous performance, particularly with reviewing in the captaincy stakes in the first innings. Loath as his coach, I'd be saying to him, look, England are minus 56 here. He's setting a field like England are 120 for 2. They're minus 56 here. He's got one slip, he's got one short leg for his spinner. He needs at least one more man in close there.
To the left-handed Burns, who's back in his crease and cutting it back to the square. There's a chase on here for John Campbell. Not covered himself in glory this morning with the fielding, but he does reel this one in, and they're back for a couple.
Yeah, they do seem to be quite comfortable with the spinner, don't they?
Yeah.
Has he got the right bowlers on?
Well, I don't mind a bit of spin, and he's turned the odd one, but sometimes you've got to put in the batsman's mind the fact that you think you're going to get a wicket, and having 3 or 4 man round the bat does that.
And this is defended, but punched really wide of mid-off, and they come through for a single. He's on 61 without loss. So, what would you have then? Would you have a man at silly point? Would you have another slip in? Would you have a leg slip to the off spinner even? What would you? I
would have all 4 positions covered for the first 2 or 3 overs. I'd have a slip, a leg slip, silly point, and a short leg, and I'd maybe move one of them out.
He's back over the wicket to the right-handed Sibley, who is forward in defence, and that completes the over. 61 without loss.
I'd also be telling them. I'll
okay.
In a sec, Addy, because I'd also be telling them, and with the close men, that you're way behind here. There's a long way to go, and so on. West Indies have come out here and allowed England pretty much to play as they like, milk singles, take the odd boundary, and England are way behind here. But it's making it look like England are comfortable, and that's not really Jason Holder's way, and it's not the way you win Test matches.
You'd be employing a bit of chirp. Talking of which, Twitter.
We've got some beard talk. So Messenger says, "Bloody hell, Grubby, that is a beard." Methuselah would be jealous. I can't say that. Sorry.
Methuselah.
Yeah, thank you.
938 years old. Thanks.
And Gits and Gratz says, almost all the gorillas who didn't previously have a beard since the last series now seem to have gone full-out facial whisker action. So glad Annie chose to opt out. Thank you. Yeah,
I've always had not when I was 5 years old, but much of my adult life I've had a beard, but it's just got a bit longer in recent times.
Really, quite a lot.
It's an excuse. This is defended by Burns, back up the track to Jason Holder, who's starting a new over. I like Gary's look as well. Those of you who can see Gary's got very much the Alexi Sale look, closely cropped hair, and a nice even covering of growth.
A nice Father Christmas beard, I'd say.
Well, that's very kind of you to say so. I'll explain how it's come about, perhaps after the next delivery.
I think we know how beards come about.
There's a little bit of a story,
There always is. Holder around the wicket to Burns, couple of slips in place, defended solidly into the offside by Burns. Yes, Gaz.
I've got one of these new kind of head shavers, which it's almost the size of a kind of computer mouse or a fist, and you sort of run it over your head. It has the little combs to, you can set it number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and it does the whole shebang. So it does the head, the beard, and so on. And because it's so wide and it's the same shape as a mouse, it's really very easy to use. I don't understand why lots of people don't have
them. When you say "and so on," this one is tucked into the leg side defensively by Burns. There's no run.
I'm not artist, so he's the man who has the full work.
Manscaping. I told you my story, didn't I, about when we were doing the Dickwell Abroad Alzat Trophy recently. Congratulations, Hendo, again. And I had Graham Gooch in my Hair Weave 11. So as part of my extensive research, I googled Gooch and hair, and the first thing I got was how to manscape your perineum. I know. Imagine my surprise. Imagine the explaining I had to do to the wife. Round wicket comes, Holder beats him, keeps a bit low as well on its way through to Dowrich. Really was a bit of a worm burner, that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, you see, this is why they
Yeah.
should be in there close and telling them we're going to get wickets now. Not we're going to keep the runs down. We're going to get wickets.
Yeah, it's still unpredictable, this pitch, isn't it? So.
It has the odd one, which is another reason why we haven't seen these big scores, and why once you get in, make sure you hit the 4 ball for 4. I mean, it sounds like I'm doing a kind of Botham here or Shane Warne saying attack, 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 but I do think West Indies are ahead in this game and should be attacking.
Fuller delivery, and Burns defends this fairly comfortably up to mid-off, and there is no run. I just want to pick up on your point from a few minutes ago, Gary, as well, about no one sort of has gone on in this match in terms of batsmen. And perhaps you could put that down to relatively soft batting lineups, relatively callow batting lineups. Not renowned for sticking big scores on the board. It's perhaps not the flattest of pitches or the easiest of pitches to bat on, but you would think that a few of them having got in, that one would have gone on and got a ton, but it hasn't happened. This is tucked into the leg side by Burns, and he's going to get off strike. He's going to get his 38th run of this innings. England's score moves on to 62 without loss at the end of the 24th.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Grubby. Really, it's not so much that people haven't gone on. You often get that in Test matches. I mean, centuries are still, sort of relatively rare, and have become rarer over the last few years compared to some of the run fests that were earlier in this century. But you would expect more of those who've got past 20 to go on and get your 80s and 90s and 100s.
It's partly conditions, though, isn't it? I mean,
it is conditions, which is why you've got to cash in when you have the chance.
I know I've got to shout out to some crick trackers. So, Monastavir says following. Hamad Faruqi says hi.
Hello.
Malakari Savuka says hi. Biplaps Hossein says hi. Hello to everybody on Crick Tracker. Great to have you with us. Mog says I shouldn't, but I think I might do another jingle for Jason Holder. Stupid inspiration struck. Durban Oak says if you don't use beard oil, you get a beard like horsehair out of an old sofa. Oh right. So that's why you do it.
He would know, judging by his Twitter.
His beard, yeah. Matley says my beard is feral, was a goatee, but grew it out in solidarity for an Indian friend who got fed up of being called a terrorist. Shaved it off in an emotional video. I was that angry he was made to feel he had to change for others, so I decided to grow mine long.
Good man, Marcus. Can you send us a recent photograph, please?
Yeah, that would be good. John Perry says, I often find if you claim to be drunk, proclaim everlasting love for the Gorillas and ask very nicely, they'll often just play a random jingle for you anyway. Talking of which, any chance of giving Colin de Grand Condom an outing?
Well, I know that Knackle's listening and smiling wryly, so that may well... Who's it asked for that, Annie?
John Perry.
John Perry, a man named after a lovely sweet drink.
And Happy Ferret says, are the Doctor Who books in alphabetical order? I'm going to have a look soon. I don't know. I'm in my son's bedroom, you see, and there's Doctor Who books on the shelf.
Alphabetical, but only in Klingon. Yes, I know it's Star Trek. You sci-fi. I've renamed myself. If you're watching on the screen, I've renamed because I have my actual name, and I've changed it to Grubby. That's more fitting for this environment. This is... oh no, it's a replay. We're watching a replay. It was a lovely,
I made an error. I made a technological error yesterday because I have my Amazon Echo here, and I was using TuneIn to listen to Guerrilla Cricket yesterday afternoon, and I was beginning to drift off to sleep a little bit. Sleeping patterns are very strange.
We were that boring?
No, it was all good stuff. Okay. But sleeping patterns are rather strange. So I sort of did what I did, only instead of saying Alexa stop, I said Hendo stop. And then was somewhat aggrieved when he carried on until I realised, of course, that my code word for the Echo is not Hendo, but it is Alexa.
But you can change it, can't you?
You can. Yeah.
Why don't you change it to Hendo? I think that would be good. Yeah.
I think that may be the next thing, but I don't fancy saying Hendo can set the alarm for 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, for example.
Hendo off.
I'll just carry on a little bit. Steve Kellett says, evening all. I saw Don... Oh, this is still... right. I saw Dom Sibley bat for the first time on the YouTube highlights this morning. His stance is a little unorthodox, to say the least. We were talking about unorthodox.
Well, we were talking about unorthodox batting styles, weren't we? And we've got Just the Man on later on at tea time, I believe. We're going to be joined by Toby Radford. Who
he was interesting. He was on yesterday. It was great.
Well... yeah, we can ask him about the unorthodox batting styles on view and his views on that. But no, I'm looking forward to that. Should be good fun. He also had the dubious pleasure of dissecting the batting technique of our very own David Brooke recently.
Yes, he talked
I believe
about
he paid
that.
25 quid for it, and it was about 3 days' work.
Jay Grover says, I'd have put Annie low on my list of gorillas suffering short-term memory loss. Thank you, Jay.
People always say nice to you, Annie. What is it about
I'm
you?
nice, that's why. Ravi Nair says, thank goodness we have Annie and Grubby on. No butler bashing.
Pardon?
Yeah, butler love.
Yes.
From Grubby and...
Well, this is a bit heretical of me to say, but I wouldn't be too disappointed if folks came in for him. Annie's gone very quiet now.
Folks is the best keeper. I agree, Folks is the best keeper.
Call me old-fashioned, but you should have your best keeper in the team. It's not. It is an old-fashioned view.
You're old-fashioned, you are.
But it's not like he can't bat as well. He's got as many Test hundreds as Butler.
No, he can bat as well. Absolutely. But Butler should be in the side.
Well, it's not going to go away, that debate, is it? Roston Chase is going to resume after the drinks break. One slip in place and a forward short leg. Not enough short fielders for Gary's liking. This is turned backward of square on the leg side, and they come through for a comfortable single. The score is 63 without loss. Yeah, West Indies do. I mean, they're not chasing the game by any means, but it is just sort of meandering as far as they're concerned at the moment, and one feels that they do have to look to make something happen.
Yeah, a bit more attacking. I'd be with Gary. Yeah, I'd say, get this field.
Patron news in just a moment as Boston Chase comes in again. This one turns moderately into the body of Dom Sibley. He turns it into the leg side, and there is no run. Yes, patron news. A $10 patron, Column Rainbow. Column Rainbow, if that's your real name. Well, whatever your real name is, if it's that or if it isn't that, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. This is defended to that wide mid-wicket position, and there is no run.
Yes, welcome, patron.
Thank you, Column.
I think there's a YouTuber called Rocky Rainbow who does musical songs. Very good.
Classic forward defensive from Sibley, stretching forward and playing it straight back down the track to the bowler.
It might be Ricky Rainbow. It's somebody, and if you put sort of Donald Trump musical parodies, you'll get him.
I think I've seen one of them actually.
Very good. Rather camp.
This is turned into the leg side once more. A carbon copy of a couple of balls ago, and there is no run again.
Right, Grubby, you tell me. Do you think Dom Sibley looks like King Stupid?
King Stupid?
Yeah. Does nobody
Fended
know
off the
who
back
King
foot
Stupid is?
and fielded it forward short leg. It's the end of the over. He's rattled through that one. 63 without loss. No, who's King Stupid?
I've talked about this before. And
I'm so sorry. Well, listening to you for every moment of every day.
King Stupid is a kids TV program, and he looks like the guy on it.
Do you know what? Yes, I must have seen it, because now you say it, I can absolutely picture him.
Thank you, Grubby. Thank you.
There we go.
I think Dom Sibley has some
just saying it to move on.
Excellent eyebrow work from Sibley under the lid. The eyebrows tell a story.
It.
Yeah.
It's a bit Gallagher-esque, that monobrow. Racky in Cornwall with something in his mouth.
I thought he was putting suntan stuff on, but I'm not sure.
Maybe it's beard oil.
Yeah, it might be. Yes.
You don't want to be swallowing that by accident, I tell you. So Rory Burns has 39, played pretty well. He's going to face up to the West Indies captain once more, Jason Holder, and he angles this one down to Gully, and there is no run.
You see, I think Holder needs either a leg slip or a short leg here. He's got to put in Burns' mind that he's seen the odd one squat already. He's got to put in his mind that the odd one might sort of pop up on him. At the moment, if it does pop up on him, there's nobody there to catch it. So, England are minus 51 here.
Round the wicket again, and Burns was looking to turn that into the leg side, but ended up playing it back down the track, and no run again. Yeah, I just wonder whether we just need to... You love these expressions, Gary. Change it up. You love the unnecessary preposition, don't you? Well, just change it up, pop it up, mash it up, do all that sort of stuff. Maybe bring on Gabriel or Roach. I fancy that both of these batsmen in their own way might be a candidate for getting caught down the leg side.
Yeah, I do.
Maybe round the wicket to the right-hander, digging it into the sort of armpit region might be one way to go, just to change it up a bit. Burns is looking to drive this one. He doesn't quite time it though. It's fielded at point and there is no run.
I heard a Knight of the Realm earlier today on a different broadcast cricket service refer to slowing it up, and that's the one I dislike the most. I used to dislike change up the most, but now it's definitely slow up. I mean, what was wrong with slow down? Not only is it a well-established phrase, but also
it makes
the preposition works with the verb.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, Knuckles put in a message to us.
This is defended by Burns off the front foot, classically into the offside, and there's no run.
He said that I've lost it now. He said that the guy who plays King Stupid is played by someone who looks like
Marcus Brigstock.
Marcus Brigstock.
Yeah, I can sort of see that. And another $10 Patreon, Andrew Ward. Not our Andy Ward, another Andrew Ward. Thank you, Andrew. As Holder is round the wicket and Burns is forward in defence, playing it into the onside this time. And there is no run. The score remains on 63 without loss. One ball left of this, the 26th over. Yeah, I don't mind all that, Gaz. Like when you see someone park in the disabled space at the supermarket and then they get out and just for show they sort of limp as they get out. And oh yeah, he's on the claim up.
The compo.
I'll just say hello to Sardar Khalid on Crick Tracker. He says hi.
Hi. How are you? And this is defended back to him. Once more by Burns. That completes the over. It remains 63 without loss. Yeah, I think I'd be looking to make that change, or that change up that we're talking about. Maybe
change that.
Maybe keep the spinner on and rotate the seamers at the other end. And I would bring on, I think, Gabriel, who bowled so well in the first innings.
Bowled brilliantly, didn't he? We got Mark. I had a beard slightly like Grubby's not that long ago. It was a bit shit.
Unlike mine.
Mogul says, if you wanted to know how to escape the taint, Grubby, you should have just asked me.
The taint, is that another word for it, is it? Chase is going to continue, still with that one slip in that forward short leg. Driven fairly wristily to mid-on by Dominic Sibley, but he doesn't get a run.
And if Holder wanted to go a little bit half and half, I'd have quite a short cover in there for the leading edge or for the one that slightly pops onto the splice.
Oh, terrible delivery, a full bugger, but he gets away with it because Sibley can only knock it into the leg side. Half fielded by the man at short mid wicket, or at least caressed on its way through to the man at wide mid-on. And the result is no run.
I'm saying half and half because a short cover is also kind of half catching, half blocking the one position.
This is defended from the crease by Sibley into the onside. There is no run. And what about the way that Chase is bowling? Would you like to? I mean, just if you're a spinner, you want to see him spin it. It sounds ridiculous, but really give it a rip and make something happen. Maybe come round the wicket and look to exploit that angle to the right hander and get LBW into play. This is turned to the leg side again. It's fielded by that man who's seeing a lot of the ball at the moment, and it is who's that there? It's Shamar Brooks.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I'll come to reason why in a moment.
Again, it's turned into the leg side, and once more it's fielded by Brooks, and once more there's no run.
He's seen the odd one grip and turn. He's also seen some variable bounce. I think the pitch will work for him. So I don't think he needs to try and get too much out of the wicket. Just needs to keep putting it in the right place.
Defended off the back foot, rather splayed legs. I'll ask Toby Radford about that later on. It didn't look very technically proficient, that one, but he survives. That's the end of the over 63 without loss.
I've got a few Crick Tracker people
Go for it,
talking about Babar Azam.
Oh yeah.
A good Somerset player. So hello to all of you at Crick Tracker that are talking about Babar Azam, because there's quite a few and a lot saying hi to us. Evil Scooter says, Gary, Annie, Grubby, hello all from a cold Canberra where the maximum today was a frankly un-Australian 8 degrees.
G'day, Scott.
Unfortunately, tonight won't be quite as unpleasant. England playing their way back in, it seems.
Yeah, as England have tended to do the last few years. I'd be interested to see what the odds are looking like at the moment. England are probably evens or something ridiculous now.
Yeah, probably.
Holder over the wicket to the left-handed Burns. A bit of a change of angle this time, and he defends it with a not wholly straight bat to point.
I bet the draw is getting shorter and shorter as well, because if the longer England bat, obviously the more the draw becomes a possibility. But that's still a very long way to go in this match, obviously.
Yeah, we're probably scheduled to have 98 overs, are we, today and tomorrow?
We think it's the same as yesterday.
Yeah, and I think it's set fair, so I think it's still likely we'll see a result. Just that's the way things go in Test cricket these days, isn't it? Defended by Burns, probably didn't need to play it, could have let it pass through, but defended.
You know that the groundsman at Hampshire is Somerset's old groundsman.
I did not know that.
It's Alfonso Thomas, isn't it?
No.
I thought I heard that it was Alfonso Thomas.
What, the groundsman?
Yeah.
No. I can't remember his name, but
that'd be a change of career, wouldn't it?
Lots of players start go across and start doing that.
He left Somerset at the end of his last one was the Essex game.
That's his defender again. A ball that's going across him, and once more fielded at point. And there's no run. Yeah, that would be a bit of a not a fall from grace as such, but once you've been a player, it seems a bit of a step down. I used to share an office with my friend Matty Eyre, she used to be called, but Matty Tong she is now. She's married to Simon Tong, who's the guitarist out of the Verve. And when the Verve stopped being a going concern, I said, "What's he doing now then?" Sort of a bit of session work. She said, "Basically, there's one step from session work to guitar lessons." So basically telling me that no, he wasn't doing that. He was still very much a performer.
Yeah, there is something worse. The real graveyard is the cruise ships. You do not want to end up on the cruise ships.
I don't know. Seems quite fun.
Get a cruise?
My cousin Georgia used to do a bit of that.
Crouperie. Is it? Crouperie, is that what it's called? The betting?
A croupier.
Croupier, thank you.
She's a dancer. But there we are. This is defended backward of point by Rory Burns, and there's no run. England just, they've slowed up, haven't they, Gaz?
They've definitely slowed up
in the last few overs.
They're about to speed down,
but not looking too troubled at the moment. And again, you just wonder whether West Indies might look to do something a bit different.
Well, we saw Kemar Roach, didn't we, sort of doing his Miguel Angel Jimenez routine earlier.
This is allowed to pass through to the keeper. What's the Miguel Angel Jimenez routine?
Well, Miguel Angel Jimenez, who is in the frame, I understand, to be the oldest winner on the European tour, because he's 2 shots ahead going into the last round. As I understand it, events may have moved on since then. But he has an extraordinary sort of series of stretches that he goes through.
He does, right.
If you YouTube Miguel Angel Jimenez, he more or less inserts the driver into places where drivers shouldn't go in order to get all the muscles warmed up and working.
3 slips in place now, and for good reason, as Burns is continuing to play at those ones outside the off stump. This one he drives up to mid-off. There is no run, and it remains 63 without loss after 28. Nakul, are we going to have one more over in this formation? There's a nod from the green room.
He's also told us the groundsman is Simon Lee. That's his name.
Not the Simon Lee.
Which is the Simon Lee?
Very pleasing bowling figures from West in the first innings. Jason Holder 6 for 42 and Shannon Gabriel 4 for 62. Just the 3 numbers between them.
Is the switch coming now, Nakul, or is it?
No, we're going to do one more over, Gary.
Yeah. That's fair enough.
Yeah, here comes Roston Chase once more. He's assisting with that one slip. He's rather deep instead of that Matt Hayden of old, if you can imagine that, on a forward short leg, and simply drives this one up to mid-on. And there is no run.
Got a photo from Muttley of his beard. It's great.
I'm going to hop onto Twitter immediately
after
this.
You'll have to see that.
And have a look. An attempt to whip this through the onside is unsuccessful by Sibley as it dobs up in front of him and leaps up on the side.
There was some concern about who the West Midlands town was amongst the West Indies 11. Well, it's Ruston Chase, isn't it? Just off the M6.
Here comes Ruston once again. Not
Was
bad.
there concern? Was there?
There's a run. By God, there's a run as he turns it into the leg side.
Oh, there's a drone. Oh no.
It definitely was, because somebody was saying, well, there was a tweet coming about the Midlands town, and people were saying, oh, who is it? I'm not sure, and everything. And I was shouting at poor old Alexa, saying, it's Ruston Chase, it's Ruston Chase.
AKA Hendo.
AKA Hendo.
Shekar Carlos says hi.
Hello, Shaka, how are you? This is a full delivery, which is turned up to mid-on by Rory Burns, who is, as Knuckle has pointed out previously, looking pretty piratical these days with that sort of well-sculpted facial furniture.
My Wi-Fi just stuttered a moment, hold on.
Defended very stoutly back up the track by Burns.
I heard Annie refer to Shaka Khan.
It did sound a bit like that, I have to say.
Morris Minor in the majors. He was getting really angry. He was going to chuck a can.
Oh, God.
Delighted, and
isn't it time you left?
A full delivery it is, actually. Driven to mid-on. There is no run. It's 64 without loss. I shall bid you farewell until later on and leave you in the capable hands, I think, of some others. I think Al's in the waiting room. So I'll leave you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
well,
Grubby.
England are
Nice to see you.
Yeah. See you later, Grubby. England 64 without loss. 64 the number of squares on a chessboard, and England have played this a bit like an opening gambit here. They've gone out there to occupy the crease, and they're not trying to score too quickly. They're not trying to chase the game, but
there's far more than 64 squares on the chessboard, Gary.
Ah, yes, of course there are. Yes, very wise, very wise. Yes, there are the squares within squares within squares. There are perhaps opportunities for 64 places on a chessboard. And that's Al, whom you are hearing in the background there, who's joining us on Summarising.
Good afternoon, Gary. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. As Holder is in, it's one of those ones that does pop. This is why you've got to have the close-in fielders. And that hit, I think, Dom Sibley on the elbow and flew off into the slip area. It's hurt him a little bit, but where did that ball come from? I mean, that is completely unplayable, isn't it? And he just goes to leave it, and the ball gets up to shoulder height.
I think that's where that's right on the point of the elbow. That is, there's going to be a few expletive deletives and colourful metaphors there from Sibley as a result of that.
Yes, on the less than funny bone when you get hit there. But I mean, that is literally my point. It's taken a chunk out of the pitch as the seam gripped on it. And we've had an hour and 20 minutes here of England just being able to coast where these demons are in the pitch as this ball goes through to the keeper.
I think this is where we can be possibly a little bit more sympathetic towards the umpires with their decisions, because it's really been about a matter of height more than anything else, and you've got this sort of two bounced leveled pitch really where certain things have ballooned, as you've said, and ripped and snorted, and there have been certain things that have kept a little bit lower. So
yeah, I think
we've got a certain degree of sympathy for the two Richards.
Yeah, I do as well, because I think umpires have got to get their eye in. And there's another point I'm going to come to, which I will after this ball, is Holder charging him with a little bit more venom now. This takes the inside edge and dribbles out into the leg side, and there's no run. I saw a tweet, or I was in a conversation with someone, I can't remember, yesterday, about the lack of sort of crowd sound at the ground. And I think we all know when we go to the cricket that there's a rhythm of the day. You can't concentrate all the time over 6.5, 7 hours of play. And so you sometimes rely on the crowd. There's a natural sense with the mood of the crowd and how they concentrate back on the action at the start of an over or another ball coming. And I think sometimes without those cues, I think it may be slightly harder for the umpires to completely concentrate on the matter at hand all the way through, as Holder comes in and he bowls a bouncer, but it's an ill-directed one, and Sibley is able to get inside. The physio is lined up to come out and give it some magic spray.
There is a little bit of blood being drawn from the elbow, and it's evident on Sibley's shirt. So I'm sure at the end of the over there'll be a little bit of a break, because I want to ask you a question. Ask you to wax lyrical on a slightly different subject, Gary.
I see.
At the end of the over.
Well, I'm just wondering whether if you can't apply spit to a ball, can you apply blood to it? As Holder is in again, just outside off Stumpsy, and that was a length ball that was taken around the ankles by Shane Dowrich, which just goes to show, how this pitch is up and down. Yeah, Alfonso Thomas, I'm grateful to Knackle that he's the assistant coach there. Has Mash joined us? I can't see him on the.
I am here.
Oh, indeed. You're there. I couldn't see you, so I couldn't cue you in. As this ball goes through to the keeper, and that is the cue for Mash to join us and to tell us what's happening on the social media front.
How you doing, gents? How's everyone doing in the Twitter sphere? I'm here, meeting some greats, enjoying the cricket along with everyone else. And on the Twitter sphere, we have that dastardly Muttley talking about losing his hair and agreeing with Gary on head shaving with an electric shaver. I missed that part, obviously, because I wasn't on comms. But I've noticed your hair's gone, Gary, but I didn't want to comment. Like, is this the new you?
Well, I mean, there's not much there left. But it was getting crazy, particularly under the chin. And so I had a look online and I saw these new style head shavers. Pitbull are the main brand, but you can get other ones that are much cheaper. And I say they're about the size of a fist, but they do make the kind of self-head shaving much, much easier than ever it was before. And it works on the beard as well. So this might be a look for me. Grateful as I am to have any sort of hair these days.
We got Jay, as Sibley gets attended to after Jason Holder drew some blood there. Jay Grover says, Mash has a pink dressing gown, respect. This is a problem with Zoom, people comparing to your bedrooms. It's not actually a pink dressing gown, it's a pink hoodie, but respect all the same. Andrew Rollerson says Brathwaite is in Cumbria. It's down the road from the Derwent Pencil Museum. Is this about West Indian village names or something?
We were speculating on who was the West Indian cricketer named after a Midlands town, or rather sort of evocative of a Midlands town, because I was listening yesterday and nobody answered it, and I believe it's Roston Chase.
Dallas Nash says, all those empty stands completely daft. If you can squash into a pub, you should be able to sit in the open air and watch the match. Plenty of space for social distancing. And actually, I'll quickly comment on that because, as most of you know, on Guerrilla Cricket and or fans of Guerrilla Cricket, I also watch a lot of non-league football. And we're talking about how and when non-league football will return. And like non-league football attendances are like county cricket attendances. We believe that we should be allowed to come back because hardly anyone attends. So,
Roston Chase round the wicket to the left-handed Rory Burns, and the man at short leg fields it. There is no run. Just come back quickly on that. My understanding is there are problems with things like concourses, communal areas, toilets and stuff like that. As Chase again around the wicket to Rory Burns, looking very comfortable, front leg down to the pitch of the ball, full face to that, no run.
I think that's a better length from Chase. I thought he bowled a little bit too full in his first couple of overs.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
He's not given a chance to get anything off the turn of the pitch.
This is full, but it's made full really by Rory Burns, who comes down the wicket, but then does, as good batsmen do realise that the attacking stroke was not on, and therefore just push the ball to Shannon Gabriel. There was probably one there actually to mid-on, but usually is to Shannon, but no run taken. This is a full-face defensive bat. Goes back to Roston Chase, no run. He's getting through his overs quickly here, Roston Chase. That'll make sure they have a timely finish this evening. He's got through 6.4 of them, none for 12 so far. As Rory Burns drives, but the man at mid-off does the fielding. What's your view, Mash, on the maroon caps? I have enjoyed seeing the West Indies side and their maroon caps. They are favouring them in the field.
The new merch in general is very nice, I must say.
Oh, that's true. I'll come back to that in a moment. As this is just pushed into the offside. The man at backward point does the fielding. It's a shame that the cable knit sleeveless sweaters has the sandals across the front, because otherwise it's a thing of beauty. It really is, that West Indies sleeveless sweater.
And actually, you should have been seeing the sandals kind of name branding everywhere. And there is certainly an argument in the Caribbean that one of the reasons this tour had to go ahead is we needed that money.
Yes.
Sponsorship. You see, like on Sky, where they've got the Sandals player zones, the name is quite a significant amount of money rested on this tour for West Indies.
And I think some of the local economies in the Caribbean are looking to get as many tourists back. And of course, Sandals are a big tour company. So Jason Holder continuing this rather long spell, and Sibley, having had that little bit of treatment, is back in behind the next ball, playing it beneath his eyes. Both of these batsmen are very good at playing it beneath the eyes. Al, I think you were going to give me a question at some point.
Yeah, because I know that one of your great loves not only is cricket but football.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously the news this morning was that Leeds in England and the Republic of Ireland lost the legend this morning in Jack Charlton.
Yeah.
At the age of 85. I didn't know if you had any funny stories or anecdotes about Jack Charlton that you could talk about at the end of the over.
Yeah, well, this ball is defended. We'll come to tweets at the end of the over. There is no run. I'll give you just a couple of thoughts about Jackie Charlton. My father rated him. My father was at the World Cup final in 1966.
No, he's still on.
And he said that he was a good player. He's slightly before my time. Of course, we remember him from that brutally effective Leeds United side, of which he was very much a kind of leader, even if he wasn't the captain. The captain, of course, was the fiery Scottish redhead Billy Bremner, who was about a foot shorter than War Jackie, but he was captain. But they were both very much leaders in a team of leaders as this ball is defended, and there is no run. There's a very funny clip that I was trying to find of Jack Charlton teaching kids in the kind of late 80s, early 90s. And it's one of these kind of coaching programs they used to have on the telly before reality TV really sort of got its act together and started doing Big Brother and stuff. And he was sort of coaching these kids, and it was sort of once a week. And he was brutal with those kids. He treated them exactly like he was treating sort of Tony Cascarino and John Aldridge and the rest of the Republic of Ireland side. And I'm sure these days there'd be any amount of complaints about it, but he told it how it was to Jack Charlton as the next ball goes through to the keeper. But 85 is a decent knock. I think we all have to go at some point, but obviously a sad day for many in football, and fewer and fewer of the boys of 66 left. Certainly are.
There's a lovely video from Clive Tilsley about commentating with Jack Charlton. It's well worth 2 minutes of your time when you get the chance.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons we're talking about Jack Charlton is not just to honour the memory of one of only 11 players to have run around the pitch who are English with the World Cup in their hands, certainly in terms of footballs. The next one goes down the leg side. It's because there isn't a great deal happening in the middle. As Knuckle has pointed out, we've had 2 runs from the last 44 balls and probably a couple since added on to that. And I think while England will be relatively happy about that, I think the West Indies should be looking to do a little more. England are minus 50. We have seen some variable bounce in this pitch. We have seen some spin from Ruston Chase. Of course, you can't force the issue, but I do think it's the West Indies who are letting this game drift rather than England going into their shell. As this ball is pushed to mid-wicket, it's the end of the over. England are that chessboard of 64 without loss. Mash, you're a closer follower of Caribbean cricket. Are you happy with what you're seeing at the moment?
You know what? I'll jump in with tweets in a second. What I will say is that I'm actually happy with us having restricted England to 2 runs in the last 45 balls. But I'll explain why in a second. Tweet from Ross, evening from Korea. What kind of target do we feel England could feasibly defend on this pitch? We'll get into. Do you want to just say a quick fire number without thinking?
225.
225.
I was going to say 220, so we're very close there.
I don't think West Indies can chase anything above 180. So. There you go. So that's Mog says Ruston's jingle reflects his village person duality. Jay Grover says, read the pub comment, you shouldn't be able to fit into a pub. FFS.
Very full from Ruston Chase, and there's the run that England have been looking to release a bit of pressure. Squeezed out. It was a Yorker really from Ruston Chase, and Burns got it into the covers, and they scampered one. England go to 65 without loss.
Read the 2 runs in now the last 46 balls. I don't think a whole lot's happening, so restricting England suits me. I'll leave for this ball.
Chase is in again. It's very full, and Sibley just pushes that ball, perhaps in the after lunch session. If he's still there, he'll drive that, but he pushed it, and the man at straight at mid-wicket tidied up. The lead now 49 for the West Indies. Chasing again, he is quick in his work. I like to see that in the spinner. And exactly the same, Sibley leans on a fullish ball, fielded on the leg side. I think Shai Hope there. Is that Shai Hope?
Correct. No, that's Craig Brathwaite, actually.
Craig Brathwaite. And there is no run. He's in again. And dare I say, full ball into the leg side. No run.
I hope he doesn't get paid by the hour.
Yeah, we're getting to, if we're continuing the chess theme from earlier, I think, is this Zug Zwang or something, where if either side move, they lose, as the next ball goes into the leg side. So 4 absolute facsimiles. Either that or my Wi-Fi is juddering around a bit, and I've seen one ball 4 times.
Well, if it's yours, it's mine as well, so that's reassuring.
Ruston Chase to finish this over to Sibley, who does advance down the track and then does what we were asking, which is get to the pitch of the ball and drive it rather than push it. That's good play from Dominic Sibley. That's how you make all those runs in county cricket, because he took a 4 off the last ball of the over. England 69 without loss. West Indies lead by 45. Mash.
Yeah, interestingly, yesterday... For those who missed it, that was the 4 from Dom Sibley at the end of that over. But yeah, interestingly enough, yesterday, Gary and Al, I said that the draw was the most likely result at the end of play yesterday, and lots of people laughed at me. And then I looked at CricViz percentages, and they said West Indies 50-odd%, draw 22%, England win 21%, something like that. And I'm surprised people are ruling out the draw as the most likely finish here. I see England batting all day, and even when they try and declare tomorrow, I just don't see... They're not going to declare in a position where they entice us to chase it. Do you see where I'm coming from?
I mean, to be honest, I think it's going to come down... I mean, we've talked an awful lot this morning about the idea that Holder should do more to press for wickets. But we're at a point now where England really should start thinking about setting for runs, as we've got a change in the bowling attack, Gary.
We do have, and Knuckles about to jingle him up, but he starts off wide outside off stump, and that's a fine sprawling stop there at extra cover by Ruston Chase, and Rory Burns picks up a single.
Yeah,
Alzari Joseph. Alzari Joseph.
Having his first bowl of the innings, actually.
Yeah, I just think that, I mean, we've got 2 people who we might describe as more occupiers of crease rather than accumulator of runs at sort of this level so far. And I'm just wondering about, if there is going to try and be an acceleration, where's that going to come from?
As Alzari Joseph is in, and this is turned off the hip out into the leg side, and there is no run. There is a single. So that's Sibley moving to 29. I think these 2 score perfectly adequate speed, particularly for these circumstances. They don't need to be pushing the game too hard. What they do need to do is rotate the strike and hit the 4-ball 4.
But as we move from one session today to the other, so that dynamic has to change, Gary. Today, this morning was all about don't lose any wickets in the first half hour, whereas now we are approaching, we're in the last tiny bits of the session before lunch.
This ball is outside off stump and through to the keeper, no run. I don't think England can think of anything until they get at least 150 ahead. And if they're 150 ahead with, say, 3 wickets down, I think they can start to press the accelerator, but they need to be 150 ahead. Remember, England have got 3 number 11s in this lineup here. Archer can't buy a run. Jimmy Anderson is Jimmy Anderson, and Mark Wood can sometimes thrash the odd few, but it's 7 out, all out in this England side, so there's a long way to go yet for England to be thinking about forcing a declaration. Huge amount of time as Rory Burns faces up, and this jumps a little bit on him, and he withdraws the bat, but a little bottom edge goes out to Gully where it's fielded, and there is no run.
Can I change the question slightly from what would West Indies feel comfortable chasing to say England bat and they not many wickets go? When would you declare? What's the difference between, in this setting, a competitive declaration and a we can't lose declaration?
Al, do you want to have a think about that one?
I'll have a think about that one. I've got the time it takes.
Rory
the ball
Burns with slashes this one off the front foot, and I'd have wanted about 12 for that, but it's fielded at backward point, getting the field right here. But Alzari Joseph hasn't got his line right. It was Jermaine Blackwood who owes a few runs in the field after a somewhat strange innings. He's too wide outside off stump here, Alzari Joseph. It is his first bowl of the day, and of course all of the players, we should understand, are feeling their way not just into a test match but into a season, so we shouldn't be too harsh. 2 slips and a gully are the field for Joseph. He's in again, and this is again wide of off stump, but this time further up the pitch, and so Burns leaves it alone. It's the end of the over. England are 71 without loss. Mash will come to some social media, and then Al can join us with some thoughts.
Yeah, so Jay Grover says, Mash being vaguely positive about an aspect of a West Indian cricket match. Stop the effing press. Remember, Hendo injected me with positivity. He took it all out of his body and gave it to me.
Shortest transplant ever.
And Andrew Rollison says, I don't think that England can defend anything higher than 72. Just wait for a few more comments here. Give me 1 second. Yes, and where are we? Tom says, hypothetically, if England were to look at setting a target, would they be better served batting Crawley at 3, Pope at 4, Denny at 5, and Stokes at 6?
Well, Ruston Chase is in, and this is very full, and it's just pushed into the leg side. There is no run. It doesn't give much time for interjections, Al, but if you can get some thoughts in.
I will give Match an answer to his question after the next ball.
Right, it's Chase, he's in again over the wicket, very full, and just pushed that by Sibley, who's on 29, fielded, no run.
I think the difference between a competitive and a can't lose is the difference between the first 2 sessions and 1.5 sessions on the last day.
As Chase a little bit shorter this time, and Dom Sibley watches the ball, which spins slowly towards him, and the ball is again into the leg side. I think Chase is just a little too tight to the stumps here. If he bowled the ball a little wider into the offside, it would make Sibley's decision making a little more problematic. At the moment, he can just do as he did there, just go back, wait for the spin, and just nudge it into the leg side. There's almost nothing being played on the offside, and I think that's indicative of the fact that the off spinner needs to bowl that more attacking line, which is kind of 5th stump turning onto 4th or off. This is again leg stump, and again it's clipped into the leg side. There is no run.
They've certainly set that the field. They've packed it for the 45 drive on the leg side.
Yeah, he's looking to bowl maidens and not take wickets necessarily directly here as Ruston Chase, and this ball goes into the leg side, and that's the end of the over. England 71 without loss.
You can still, of course, enter for the GPL. There's 3 GPL entries so far. 267, 297, 327. Hombre Nuevo getting in there. If you feel those are all incorrect, get yourself involved. Also over on Crit Tracker, Cameron Khan says, I love Pakistan. Please change that to I love West Indies. Hello from Salman Ahmad, Shekhar Chatal, Usman Ali. Lots of people saying hello.
Hello and welcome to everybody. Very happy to have you with us.
Saki Bat says very good from England, and Hashim Arafat says good. Hello everyone on Crit Tracker. Please send us your hello.
Alzari Joseph coming to the crease, and this is a better line. It makes Rory Burns play, but it just goes into the offside, and there is no run. I mean, I think England may have memories of Headingley. Of course, I definitely have, and Shai Hope's celebrated twin centuries that got West Indies up to, I think, 340 or something in a chase that I was still convinced they weren't going to be able to pull off, even when they only needed 5 of about 30 overs, as the Bear insists on reminding me. So, I mean, I think England won't be happy with a chase of less than about 300 at least. I think they'll declare when the 350, as this ball goes through to the keeper, and there is no run. just to slightly clarify that, I think England, if they have the opportunity to declare, will want over 300 before they do so. And I don't think they'll be leaving West Indies, say, 2 sessions to make 220. They won't risk that in the first test of the series.
I completely agree, Gary. That's why I asked the question. I think England will bat till they know they're safe.
Yeah.
Even though I would back West Indies to collapse, sorry, the negativity's here, I don't think England want to. In the first test, you can't dare risk it. Maybe it would show us something about Stokes' captaincy, though, if he did risk it, but I don't think they will.
As Alzari Joseph comes in, this is a ballooning bouncer that goes over the back of Rory Burns through to the keeper. I mean, they can't really afford to West Indies to get off to a flyer, get a few fours off Archer and Wood over the slips or something, and all of a sudden a target of 260 is down to 200. At number 3, Blackwood comes in, goes mad, and gets 70 off 45 balls, and then it's a coast to the line. So they can't afford that scenario in the first test of the series. Alzari Joseph is in, and this is again wide of off stump. Again, it's a bit short, and it goes through to the keeper. He's having trouble with the radar here, I think, Joseph. He's too wide and he's too short, and what we enjoyed so much about the West Indies bowling in the first innings is it was so clever. It was exactly the right length. It was tight. It gave very few unnecessary leaves. But they haven't been able to replicate that kind of approach in the second England innings, and that's shown on a scoreboard that says 71 without loss. As Josephson again, and this is a little tighter, and Burns, as he does so well, gets very compact, plays the ball under his eye and nudges it backward of square, and they jog an easy single. He goes to 42.
The West Indian the bowlers have all been very quick to be able to move over to bowl around the wicket to the left-handers. I'm surprised that Joseph's persisting with this slanted across line, sort of taking LBW out of play.
Yeah, Kemar Roach is the world's best bowler, I think, against left-handers, or rated the best bowler against left-handers. So it is a bit of a surprise that Burns hasn't had to face him much in this session, as this is down the leg side. Again, Joseph is struggling a bit with his line, and Sibley's having more trouble with the fly than he is with the bowling at the moment. And it's through to the keeper. It's the end of the over. England are 72 without loss. Your tweets.
Andrew Rollison says, you normally need 91 overs to bowl out a side. Day 5 plus 1 over historically, going back to 1877. England won't have enough runs by the end of the day to make a declaration viable or defendable. But aren't we assuming that England would be batting until at least minimum midway through the second session? I'm not fully certain though.
No, I don't think it was any of our thought that England would declare at the end of play today.
No. Chase round the wicket to Sibley, and he's caught. Oh, that's a poor. Sorry, it's Burns, and that's a poor piece of play. After all that forbearance, he gets a long hop outside the off stump. His eyes light up, and he slashes a catch. He's shaking his head as well. He might. He's played so well. And that's about the poorest ball that Ruston Chase has bowled. It's just there. He could hit it anywhere, and instead he gets half a top edge. It goes to backward point. He's gone for 42.
How's that? You messed about, I caught you out. How's that?
I wonder if that's just bounced a little bit, unexpectedly from Burns' point of view. But it looks a terrible shot. It's come off the because he's tried to square cut. It's come out of the top half of the bat, and it's kind of just like you said, ballooned to a point, just backward point. But ironically, first ball that Chase has decided to bowl from outside, around the wicket, trying to be whether he's trying to just induce a little bit of a false shot, whether it is, just like you said, a rank half volley. Almost a loosener at the beginning of the spell to be able to, but then again, best balls don't sometimes get wickets.
No, that's true, and maybe it did bounce a little more, but I think that Burns wasn't sure whether he should be hitting it up and over or rolling the wrists. Got caught slightly in two minds, and his bat shape and body shape was neither designed to keep the ball low, nor was it to get it up and over. And we've seen, I think, a slight change in the order here, so that's probably got Knackle a little discombobulated. I'm sure you're lining up the correct jingle now.
Joe Denley, he's almost as old as the theme song, but Chef is gone and we need someone to bat at the top of the order. Joe Denley, he's also a part-time bowler. He can do leg spin, but he's no Ravi Ashwin.
And he's pushing the first ball driven from over the wicket from Ruston Chase to the right-handed Denley into the leg side, and there is no run. The ball does take a little puff of dust out of the pitch, but plenty have. But I think it's just a poor execution of what was probably the right shot. As this is very full, and Denley drives rather than pushes, but Ruston Chase gets across to it and does the fielding. Well, it's pretty.
He's a bit unlucky. If it had been a couple of minutes later, we would have taken an early lunch.
No, he don't for a wicket. It's only a change of innings. The ball is defended, and there is no run. No, he'd have to come out and face one ball. It's only if there's a change of innings, I think. So Jason Holder, you'll be happy to have got that wicket. England 72 for 1. Ruston Chase in his 10th over has 1 for 17, so he's doing a job for his captain as Denley gives him the full face, and there is no run. Max, you must be feeling a little more confident now.
Yeah, and to be honest, before lunch, I'd be bringing back Shannon Gabriel for a Denley.
Absolutely.
To be honest, so I'm expecting that change.
Absolutely. As Chase is in and Denley just defends this back down the wicket, there's a sense in which Denley may well be playing for his place here. He often seems to be playing for his place, but Joe Root will be coming back. We know that's for sure. And 4 into 3, or rather 5 into 4 don't go. One of this top 4 of England is going to have to make way for him. Any more tweets there, Ash?
1 second, bear with me. So we've got people on Crit Tracker again saying hello and hi. Shout out to everybody on Crit Tracker. And actually, before I read the tweets, just a quick reminder as we approach lunch. So at lunch, we'll be playing as much as we can of our anti-racing special podcast. Myself and Knackle reflected on our own experiences in the Black Lives Matter protests, and ask some expert guests on how cricket can affect change. So look out for that at the lunch break.
And I'm reminded that Joe Denley did bat number 3 in this innings. I thought it was in the first innings. I thought it was Crawley, but it wasn't. And Sibley gets one on the leg side from Alzari Joseph, who is absolutely all over the place. It takes the hip, beats the sprawling Dowrich, and 4 very welcome leg byes.
Not much has got past Dowrich, must say. He's had a very good game behind the stumps.
That would have been difficult as well.
Leg byes.
Sibley, who's got a lot going on before the ball is delivered, is beaten by a ball that just goes straight along the ground, and that's one of the reasons why the draw is possibly not as short as it might be, because if that ball had been on the stumps, there's nobody playing that. Just shot along the ground and went through to the keeper, but it wasn't on the stumps. Batting is going to get pretty difficult tomorrow, I feel. Of course, the bowler's got to bowl the right line, and that's what Joseph has struggled with on either side of the stumps. But he's got the right-handed Sibley to bowl at now, and that is a better line. Sibley's in behind it, and they steal a single to, I think, Shannon Gabriel or is it Jason Holder himself at mid-on? Yeah, so he's slightly on his heels, perhaps thinking of whether to bring Shannon Gabriel back or not, and England stole a single. Sibley goes to 30, then yet to get off the mark.
That might have been the first ball where I think I've seen any. I mean, it might just be a fuller length from Joseph, but I thought I did see a little hint of swing out of the hand there. That might be the first time that I think that we've seen it so far this morning.
But you're right. It does seem strange that Alzari Joseph is now in his 3rd over. He's barely bowled a single ball where he would like it to go, and he's got a new batsman to bowl at here. But then he must be thinking, well, I'm glad it's Joseph and not Shannon Gabriel I'm facing. I always think there's a lot in that stock cliche that you should always do what your opponent does not want to have you do when you're a captain, and Denley certainly doesn't want to be facing Gabriel when he can be facing Joseph. Of course, Cume getting cleaned up middle stump now as Joseph is in, but it's well wide of off stump, and again, I mean, that's an illustration of what I was saying earlier. Dowrich took the other one sort of second bounce as it dribbled along the ground, and that one a little fuller went through overhead height to the keeper.
And you can understand the sort of the watchful nature. There's been nothing really. There's only been one false shot so far this morning, and it's claimed a wicket.
Yeah, Test match is a cruel environment, and after all that forbearance, Burns saw a chance of 4 freebies and got out as a result. That's a decent ball from Joseph.
That is a better ball.
Slightly outside off stump and beat the bat. And Dowrich, you're absolutely right, Al. Dowrich has impressed me a lot. Not an easy pitch to keep on this, but he's been very tidy and at times a bit more than that. Yeah, that ball went over the top of middle stump there as he rather held out his back to dry, Denley. There was no sort of shot played at that at all.
Bit of it, yeah. Not quite a block. You know, it realised it was a bit steep for an offensive shot, and then forgot to take the bat back.
Yeah, it's Joseph's in again. It's a bouncer. Has suddenly come to life a bit here, Joseph, and he was ducking under that early on as Denley. That shot from Denley, he kind of went to play the ball and then left his bat there. And if you can imagine, that's how to be bowled off the inside edge. As Mash, we'll come across to you for any tweets, because we're going to have perhaps 1 or maybe 2 overs before we go to the podcast.
Yeah, so Durban, Woy Pom, sorry, says the collapse is on, we're doomed. And Seagrave Saab says, you are wondering how they might increase the run rate. Poor old Rory just showed you the way. The next one down should precipitate the rate increase we are hoping for. Wait until after lunch, though, guys. Don't start falling yet. I think you said earlier, Gary, maybe about, I don't know, maybe an hour back. In this situation, I just believe you can just bat and you assess where you are at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think so. As Ruston chases in, continuing this spell, and Sibley, a little bit more aggression there, more of a drive than a push, but it was well stopped at short mid-wicket. Sibley's getting a little bit antsy here against Ruston Chase, who has bowled him a lot of dot balls.
Annie Chaver has tweeted in to say she's made us a chocolate cake, but I'm not sure how it's going to get to all of us in our remote location.
Annie, if you just want to put your face in the cake.
That's a half volley from Ruston Chase, but perhaps a little concerned about the previous shot. He just pushed that one, did Sibley, and there was no run. He has 30 off 118 deliveries. Joe Denley yet to get off the mark. England still trail by 37 here, so although there's plenty of positive talk that we've had here about England and declarations, England are still a long way behind in this game. And still only the short leg and the slip. I'd be very inclined to have a leg slip. But it goes back to Sibley, and this defended no run. Again, I find this baffling with captains. They all do it. They take a wicket, and the field stays the same. You think a wicket would change your thinking, change the balance of the game, but no reflection of that in the field. Very full, defended by Sibley to the man at mid-wicket, who I hope is getting his full pay, because he's been doing the work of 10, really, because he's done all the fielding in the last few overs.
I think next over is going to be the last over before lunch.
This takes the inside edge, goes onto the pad. There's the most half-hearted appeal you've ever heard in your life from Shane Dowrich, and nobody else joins in, really, and there is no run. Man at short leg in the game. Does need a man round the corner, though, at leg slip. The inside edge, or the one that goes off the face down there, is definitely on here. This is defended by Ruston Chase, and Dowrich sprints to the other end in the expectation of getting one more over. And Mash, that gives you some tweets.
Do send your tweets in, people. None to update at this moment in time, so we'll wibble whilst we wait for your tweets. Chaps, I know that there's going to be a few West Indies changes, or at least definitely one for the next test, but we know Root's coming back. But I wonder if England will drop both Wood and Archer and bring in Wokes and Broad, or do you think there'll only be one bowling change?
I've got my own thoughts about Broad's mentality. I mean, I've got no problem with him being angry. I've got every problem with the fact that he said that he was angry and annoyed whilst the Test match was going on.
Joseph in goes slightly wide on the crease, and Joe Denley perhaps saw that and was ready for the ball that was angling down the leg side, and just turns it off his pads to the man at deep backward square, and he's off the mark with a single. My view is that, and I put a tweet out earlier today, is that the problem England have with Wood, Archer, and to some extent Stokes, is that when things aren't working out, when they're not knocking the nail into the coffin, their only real response is to hit the nail harder. And I do think that they're three very similar bowlers in lots of ways, as this ball is on the leg side and Sibley helps himself to a much needed run, also to the man at deep backward point. And I think England have got to get Sam Curran in this 11. I think they need his left arm, they need his cutters and his swing, and I think that it's really dangerous going into Test matches where 7 out is essentially all out, with a tail as weak as England's. So rather than Broad, the bowler I want to see coming back in is Curran. England have got to do something to avoid these right arm slam the ball into the pitch, because there's too many of them. 3 is at least 1 too many, and arguably 2, as this ball goes through to Dowrich and there is no run.
That's really interesting. Sorry, go on now.
Yeah, I was going to say I can see there being at least one change.
Well, Root's going to be one change for sure.
Well, no, I mean one change in the bowling attack. But quite who for who, I'm not quite sure. I mean, with there only being sort of 6 matches in the summer, whether Jimmy takes a break at some stage, who knows?
I'm surprised to hear you both down on Broad, though. You're not being down on him, but it's interesting to me as a West Indian.
As Joseph is in, and Sibley, it sort of shapes the play that, and then sort of lets it be taken on the pad. I think it goes through to the keeper anyway. There is no run. I mean, I've got no objections for Broad coming back. This is very much Broad conditions, and a Broad kind of, in fact it hits him, no, we're seeing a replay of the arm there. I've got no objections to Broad coming back in. I just think that if you've got Stokes, Wood and Archer, they're 3 that in the Venn diagram, their circles are quite closely overlapping each other, and I think you need more variety. As this ball is attempted cut from Denley, but he gets a bottom edge to it, and the ball just dribbles away onto the leg side. And Knuckles reminded us that Denley is a man for the inside edge onto the stumps, and you can see that just in the few deliveries he's played today.
My problem was that he should have taken his annoyance and he should have kept it to himself while you know, because all he does is he to all intents and purposes throw his team under the bus while he's pouting about not playing.
I'm less concerned with that. I think a man with 138 Test matches being asked, are you disappointed if you're not playing? I think it would have been absurd if he said, sure, I'm fine. Take on the pad, but there's a little bit of inside edge, and Denley shows the bat to Joseph, who'd already strangled his appeal. So that's the end of the over. 40 have gone, and that is lunch on the 4th day of the first Raise the Bat Test. England are 79 for 1. They trail by 35. Joe Denley has 1. Dom Sibley has 31. And after a few words from Mash and Al, we'll be across to a podcast, and we'll be back with you on Guerrilla Cricket for the post-lunch session in 40 minutes' time.
Yeah, before I hand over to you, Al, I guess West Indies are still ahead. So I was about to say even Stevens in that session, but actually West Indies have a wicket. They're still 35 ahead, but I think they should be looking to be more aggressive at the start of the post-lunch session.
I think a platform's well set. So Burns was out for 42, caught Campbell bowled Chase. Chase 11 overs, 1 for 17. Good economy, but really showing that there really hasn't been too much in the pitch to be able to try and create those chances. Roach 9 overs, none for 21. Gabriel 7 overs, none for 16. Holder 9 overs, none for 14. And then Joseph 4 overs, none for 6. So it'll be interesting to see about this next session, whether there's an attempt to try and pick up the pace, or whether there's more a sense of we'll let the game come to us from both sides, really. Or to play for a critical second session instead of a critical first session. But now I think we're going to move on to the podcast. So enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you after the lunch break.
Emmett Till, Stephen Lawrence, Jean-Charles Jimenez, Mark Duggan, Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, Philando Castile, Adama Traore, Tatiana Jefferson, Botham Jean, Joyce Clark, Veronica Walker, Mahmoud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, Belly Mujinga, George Floyd. We say their names and remember those of others around the world. Not all were murdered by police, but all were failed before and after they were killed by systems whose express purpose is to protect the people who live under them. At this international moment of reckoning, we say their names. When 17-year-old Darnella Frazier, 17, filmed Minneapolis cop Derek Chauvin killing George Floyd by kneeling on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and broadcast that atrocity to the world, the world took notice. Protests against violent state-organized white supremacy have been met with even more violent state-organized white supremacy, but still the people do not stop. Nor should they, because through their courage, 3 words are now unignorable, even by the most ignorant. Black Lives Matter. Welcome to what will appear in your podcast feeds as the Guerrilla Cricket Podcast Anti-Racism Special. We had to call it something, and it's quite hard to spell a wordless scream. Anti-racism isn't the absence of racist words and actions. It's a fight against the systems and inbuilt attitudes that lead to them. It's not a topic to be packaged into an hour-long box of content, thrown into your social media feeds and not thought of again. It's a day-by-day essential part of making the world we all live in a better place. We don't make such grand promises as that, but we don't have the luxury of saying nothing. I'm Knuckle Mpande, and over the next hour we'll be joined by experts in the legal and representational aspects of anti-racism work in cricket. And first by someone who I'm delighted to have with me on this journey, Mashal and Patrick Hewitt.
Knuckle, how you doing? Don't think I can really follow that start. I think you've done credit to the times and periods that we're going through in the here and now, and yeah, just a pleasure to be here, and pleasure to share the forum with our esteemed guests later on today. So yeah, happy to get into, well, not happy, but you know what I mean. Let's get into this.
Yes, indeed. A small note before we begin. We were due to have Tasneem Somerset Khan with us, but due to tragic personal circumstances, that wasn't possible. We love you, Taz. We hope you're okay, and take care of yourself. We'll make more time later in the show to try and make some sense together of what we've seen coming out of America. But let's start closer to home. Mash, you wrote a fantastic piece recently for the website of Stadio, a brilliant podcast that's ostensibly about German football, that deals with so much more on what being black and what being aware of being black is like at non-league football. The link to the piece will be in the show notes. Go and read it. But can you I guess expand on that and say a few words about your experience of blackness as a cricket fan?
Yeah. So I guess read the piece. I think let's start with the football because it's probably easier, and then relate it to cricket, or maybe we could call it sports as a whole. I've, like anybody who's probably listening to this pod, have been watching and playing sports since I was a young kid, and more extensively I've been watching football and the home team that I support for the last 24 years. And when I say watching, I mean travelling everywhere around the UK, home and away, to watch my team. And in doing that, I feel that has provided me a greater insight into, I don't want to say greater insight, that's everything we say today has to be, we're speaking from the heart, I'm mindful of how I say it, but so I say it's provided me an insight into being black in the UK across the country. Now some could say, how can getting on a train and watching 90 minutes of a sport and going to inspecting towns and then coming back to London, really providing introspection. What I mean by that is I've travelled all over the country and I've seen, or I felt, I think I felt my blackness across these 24 years in the reactions or my perception of reactions to my blackness. And that's what kind of essentially led to me writing the piece. People have known for ages that I've had the story to tell, but I don't know, I was reluctant to tell it. And if I'm honest, one of the reasons I was reluctant to tell it is because when we sometimes talk about racers, whichever nomenclature you prefer, whether or an acronym, whether it's BAME or whether it's people of colour or whether it's simply black or brown, one of the things I've always felt, Knuckle, and you may well hear what I'm saying here and others listening may well hear this, is that I've always thought in the past when talking about race that you have to coax the language in a context of acceptability that a BAME audience is willing to hear. And that's difficult to say because people might think over this last week that everything that's been going on with race has been about Black Lives Matter, and yes, that's super important. I'm not going to denigrate that in any shape or form, but it's also about, I think, for every person of colour in this last week, they have possibly had to spend time looking at their own journey and thinking about all those times where they've let things slide, where they've kept their mouth quiet, because, as I said in the piece that I wrote, because I'm just trying to survive. I'm trying to just get through life without getting a tag associated to my name. And if ever I wanted to explain to somebody who's still trying to process all of this and work out what does this all mean, why are people of colour so angry, why are they saying all of this stuff? Because for the vast majority of us, we've held our tongues in, because it's easier to do so in a lot of circumstances than the opposite. And if anything, what the last week has shown is people are tired. I think that's actually the last week has just shown that people are tired. And I spoke to Musa Kwonga and Ryan Hunn at Stadio. They knew about the piece and they said you should write it. And I wrote about a month ago, and it just seemed right to release it now, given what's been going on. So that's the football aspect. And then when you cross it over to cricket, I'm not a county cricket. Well, I don't want to say follow. I mean, like, I don't go in week out like I would do if I was watching football. But obviously, I'm a cricket fan, and I watch cricket, particularly when the West Indies are over here touring, or if I'm in the Caribbean. And we can go into this in far more detail, but I actually think that cricket has to do a lot of introspection as well. And I know we've got some guests coming on. There has always been, for me, I've got a piece coming out next week about Chris Gale, and I don't want to say too much about it, but just kind of prefacing that piece, I said in that piece that there was some of the stuff that people say about Chris Gale, I often wonder if there's a bit of colorism in that, and that he doesn't fit the prerequisite of what it means to be a cricketer. Now, some will say that's not a black-white issue, but I'm just saying I think there's some issues that cricket needs to unpick as well. But I'll stop there for now, Knuckle. I've got more to say, but I'll stop there for now.
I think that's another reason why a lot of us haven't spoken, even those of us who do speak quite a lot. I'm in a different position to you. I pass because I speak like this. And I'm of a minority that's been relatively privileged within UK society. A good example of this is I grew up in East Yorkshire, and I always remember walking. My friend and I went to visit another one of our friends, and we were walking through the street in the village in which he lives, and he was stopped by someone in the street, someone he knew. Small village, everyone knows each other, and introduced me and my friend to her, and asked, "Where are you from?" Which is a hell of a loaded question. That's another podcast in itself. With the slight tone of "Where are you really from?" and at the time I said India, and she, her face lit up, and and she said, "Oh, and my daughter went to Goa. It's always Goa. She went to Goa last year, and she loved it." And then she asked my friend, and I could see his face drop, and he said Pakistan, and she went absolutely silent. So I don't have the experience of having to be worried for my physical safety in life or in sporting crowds. I just don't in the UK. But I have had that experience of my first ever county game was a Pro 40 game, Yorkshire versus Worcestershire at Headingley, and I had to sit frozen in inarticulate disgust in the Western Terrace as the Yorkshire fans racially abused from Solanki and Kabir Ali. Because I don't know what would have happened if I'd spoken up. I guess I froze, and that's how it is. And we'll come on later to instances of saying nothing because it's the socially easier thing to do. But we do have guests, and the first guest I want to bring in is somebody who's a real expert in her field. Though the ICC's weak response to the events of the last few weeks has not gone unnoticed, they have not been completely idle on the matter of racism and anti-racism. In 2012, they introduced a dedicated anti-racism policy and conciliation process to set down what is and what is not acceptable and what should be done about it. And last year, a sports lawyer called Anujaya Krishna wrote a review of those documents for the website Law in Sport. I'm delighted to have her on the line with us now. Anujaya Krishna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Nakul. Thanks a lot.
Can you speak to what the ICC anti-racism policy and the conciliation process says, firstly, and then what you made of it in your article for Law in Sport?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, the thing is that the time at which I wrote the article, in 2018, there was an ICC anti-racism policy code and implementation guidelines that were enforced. Now, as of August 2019, there is an amendment to that, and the ICC has also changed the nomenclature. So they're calling it the ICC's anti-discrimination policy now. Just looking at the fact that they've changed the name of the policy itself is showing that they're trying to broaden the ambit of the sorts of instances and incidents that the policy should address and that the ICC should be able to address. Earlier, it was anything that would be religiously or racially offensive, but now they've said that anything that targets a person's personal protected characteristics could be classified as being discriminatory, and it could be addressed. Moreover, through this changed policy that they've brought about, they're trying to make it easier for member states, the national cricket boards, to address this issue. Earlier, the national cricket boards were sort of tied to what the ICC would guide them and tell them to do, but now they have more flexibility in that regard, so that's another positive. In terms of the procedure itself, I'll just explain it in brief. So whenever any such instance of racism happens, then the process is that either the match referee or the umpire who has witnessed that incident or to whom it has been reported, or it could be the ICC's chief executive officer or the team manager or CEO of the particular team, they could report this incident. Following this report, then a proper report is prepared, and that is then given to the match referee or to the ICC Cricket Operations Department. Now, here is when the actual process starts, because then this department forwards it to the ICC's General Counsel, who runs a preliminary inquiry or investigation of sorts. So they basically try to find out whether something of that gravamen has happened or not that needs to be addressed. Here on now, it goes into a two-pronged approach. If the General Counsel thinks that, yes, the party that has been accused of such an offense has a case to answer, then they, send a notice to that party. Otherwise, they just inform the complainant that, there's no valid case that has been made out and we're not proceeding further. In the first instance, if the General Counsel does decide that there is a case for that party to answer, there are again two approaches. And here there's something very interesting. So they've given an option under the courts that either you could opt for conciliation to address that incident in the first place, or you could directly go to the disciplinary hearing procedure. Now, this was not in place in 2009. This was introduced in 2009. And the interesting backdrop to this, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners are already aware of this, was the Monkey Gate scandal that happened, between Andrew Symonds and Harbhajan Singh of the Australian and Indian cricket teams, respectively. And in that, what was found is, I'll just briefly, tell what happened in that. It's basically that Andrew Symonds mistook a Hindi expletive that had been used by Harbhajan Singh to be a racist slur. And when this matter, at that time, we didn't have a conciliation policy in place, so the matter directly went to the disciplinary hearing. And over there, the BCCI explained their stance, and they said that, Harbhajan Singh did not say something that was racist, but could have been mistook to be something that was racist. And then the ICC realized that there may be so many such instances where, because of barriers of language and culture, players are sometimes not able to understand what could be offensive to the other team. And it has happened in the past with teams like Afghanistan against Namibia and so on and so forth. So this was the background why conciliation was introduced. So that is one way to go. And the second option is when you directly go for the disciplinary hearing, then the player is sort of tied down in terms of the sanctions that can be imposed on him. It gets more serious at that stage, let's just say. So the player could either say that he's guilty and then, the ICC proceeds on that basis, or the player could say that I'm guilty, but I don't agree with the sanctions that are being imposed on me. Or the player can simply say that I don't think I have committed any offense, and then the ICC will obviously proceed on those lines. So this is roughly how the procedure works. And aside from that, I also analyzed the fact as to whether this policy addresses spectators or not. Because, over the years, there have been so many instances where spectators have indulged in behavior that is objectionable, that is racially abusive. And the interesting thing is that the code only mentions spectators at one instance. There is only one mention where the code simply says that, towards spectators also no racism should happen. But when you look at the policy, both the old one and the new one, the policy is very strict about it, and it does give guidelines as to spectator behavior as well.
So it specifically mentions racist abuse towards spectators, but not from spectators to players, because we did a podcast almost entirely devoted to the incident at Maunganui where Jofra Archer was abused in New Zealand, and the New Zealand Cricket Board's initial strong response, and then slackening of that response with only a partial rather than full ban for the racial abuser involved. Given that we live in a time where overt racism is more socially acceptable than it's been, certainly in my lifetime at any point, is that code due for an update? I know you were quite complimentary of the code and of the conciliation process, in particular in your analysis, but this does seem like something that needs to be addressed. Do you agree?
So I think, it's just a question of the fact that the code is more addressed towards the players, the player support personnel, and the match officials. That I understand could be one reason why spectator behavior has not been addressed as comprehensively in the code itself. But then when you look at the policy and the implementation guidelines for the policy, they are pretty exhaustive in this regard. So I think it would be wrong to say that it hasn't been addressed at all. But the code itself is more specific in application, which is why it doesn't talk about spectators. But there is one thing that I do think needs update, which is regarding the use of social media. For instance, the Jofra Archer incident that you mentioned, I understand that the person who had targeted him had also, sent him certain messages on certain social media platforms, racial slurs and abuses and those sorts of things. So the ICC, I think, needs to be more comprehensive as to how social media is going to be handled and how spectators, if they indulge in such behavior through social media, because I think social media gives you that cloak of invisibility where you think it's okay to do these things. And, that is something that needs to be addressed. And I'd just like to, in fact, direct the attention of the listeners to one such incident that happened this January in 2020, where a player of the Australian under-19 cricket team had, posted something on Instagram, and then the fellow players of that team, they went on to comment in broken English they were sort of insinuating that, Indian fans would normally comment in broken English and they don't have a good sense of language and so on. And Cricket Australia was very, very stringent in their handling of the situation. But I do believe that, normally these are all reactions that happen once the thing has already taken place. So perhaps it would be useful to have a sensitization program in advance so that we can curb more such instances.
Yeah, that was interesting because Cricket Australia opted for an educational approach to their under-19 team. Jake Fraser McGurk, chief among them, their star player, and one of the players who got involved in that exchange, Tanvir Sangha, is of Indian parentage, indulging in sort of Indian online English or mockery thereof. So it's a two-part approach. Then it's education and it's punishment. I can think of one instance of the latter in the recent times. Sarfraz Ahmed early last year was caught on mic saying something derogatory that was clearly racially linked to the South African all-rounder Andile Pekluayo, and was banned for 4 games. You mentioned what became known as Monkeygate in 2008. I mean, that's a whole podcast series in itself, the fallout of that. But Mashal, I wondered if you had anything that you wanted to weigh in on.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, Nakul, some of the examples have been raised, and it could, maybe I could argue that I'm not privy to all of the ins and outs of what has been sent up to the ICC to look at, or maybe things have been dealt with at a board level before the ICC have even really had to get involved. But I find it hard to believe that we can all agree that racism pervades in all aspects of society, in all countries. And I find it hard to believe that cricket has only had a few isolated incidents in the history of cricket. Never mind, let's just take like the last 10 years. Cricket's no exception to society. So it makes me wonder either what we don't know or what's been brushed under the carpet because it goes against the spirit of cricket. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I just wonder if cricket has that kind of culture where it's like, let's not upset the game. Let's try and just deal with this before it has to escalate. I don't know if cricket has had its sense of reckoning that we must deal with issues on. Does that make sense?
Well, just to build on that, I mentioned letting things slide for social ease earlier, and I think there's certainly an element of that. I mean, I can think of one example in the 2017-18 Ashes. It came out much later when Moeen Ali was interviewed about it, that he had been racially abused and called Osama on field by one of the members of the Australian team. And I remember saying at the time how much of a scumbag you have to be to upset Moeen Ali. But it's certainly true that the incidents that I've mentioned and that Anuja mentions in her piece cannot be the only ones. They're only the most high-profile ones and the ones that spring most easily to mind. I think what is interesting, Anuja, to me, is that it took until, when was the policy written? 2012, and it took until a tour almost not happening between two of the world's richest boards for this to be considered, given the expressly colonial history of cricket and given the long history of racial abuse and racial systematic discrimination all over the world. I find it strangely predictable that it took so long.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, of course, with what you guys said, that this has been a problem that has been rampant in sport and, in fact, all aspects of society for really long. And there was something disturbing, in fact, when I was looking up this instance that I mentioned of January 2020 involving the under-19 Australian team, that a lot of media houses had referred to it as casual racism. I think that term in itself, I mean, when you begin classifying offensive behavior like this and you think that something is casual and so, I mean, it's not that big a deal, that's how it snowballs into something bigger. And I completely agree with Mashal as well when he said that, I mean, if you have such instances, it becomes systematized exclusion and discrimination over a period of time. So it's not about isolated instances that happen. So definitely, yes, that's why I mentioned, I think the only way to reduce this and to address this situation is through increased sensitization rather than more sanctions. Because sanctions, a lot of players, they might have a long career ahead of them and a few suspension points, they might not take them that seriously. But when you do inform them and educate them about it, I see a ray of hope there, definitely.
The other point I wanted to raise before we let you go and before we start to unpick what you said just between the two of us is the code seems very much geared towards isolated instances, cases of individual abusive language and behavior. It doesn't really begin to address the systematic problems. To take a few examples, Australia excluding John Gleeson, the finger spinner, from their cricket after a very good start, and that exclusion being easier because he was a player of colour in a time where that really wasn't done. We've heard Usman Khawaja talk very eloquently about his experiences, and probably the most infamous case because of what it led to, the non-selection of Basil D'Oliveira for the tour of South Africa in 1970. And the fact that, again, it took a tour not happening between two well-established and powerful cricketing nations for cricket to reckon with something as great as apartheid. So the absence of any recognition at official level of the systematic problems is deeply troubling to me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that because when you look at the code, like you mentioned, it does handle incidents of such behavior. And they've sort of classified it to say that, there are some incidents that might happen on field on a particular match day. And then they've said there might be other instances that happen outside of matches. For example, in a warm-up match or practice match and so on. But when it comes to selection, when it comes to things like this, then yes, this is something that has been completely, I don't want to say hushed, but yeah, it hasn't been addressed at all. And of course, such things still do happen and players have written about it in the past as well. Even in my piece that I wrote for Law in Sport, I mean, I was surprised to find this has been going on since the 20th century or so, when other teams started coming in. West Indies joined the game, and earlier, Australia and South Africa were more predominant. Within the South African team, the sort of discrimination that was there in terms of selection of players, I agree that is something that has not been addressed so far.
I was just going to say, part of me wonders, do the players know the systems they can go through? Like, obviously they must do. But what I mean is there's a difference to, and I'm thinking of football parallels here. There's a difference between knowing this is what I do if an incident takes place. There's a difference between knowing that and feeling like you'll be supported should you choose to go down that route. So using Nakal's example of Moeen Ali and was it Osama you said that he was called during the Ashes? He may well, and I don't want to speak for Moeen Ali, but I'll just take an example, extrapolate that example. He may well know the systems, but he may well have taken a calculated decision of, if I go down this route, what am I bringing onto the ECB? What am I bringing onto the game of cricket? Am I prepared for the fallout? And I guess what I'm talking about on a wider scale is, has enough gone into letting the players know what representation they've got, recodes of racism and abuse? I'm fairly certain every cricketer in the world would say, yeah, we know about that, but they may not know the full in-depth. So, like, do their boards make sure that at the start of every calendar year we go back through our training about what happens if there is an incident of? So I just don't know if cricket's got to, I don't know if they've embedded it properly in the sport that players feel comfortable. We've seen with football in the last year how more and more players speak out now and say, no, this isn't on. And I just wonder if cricket's got some way to catch up to get to that stage. And is that about an education aspect for the players, or are we still in the infancy, I guess is what I guess I'm getting at.
I think that's a very good point for us to consider and keep considering as cricket, as you say, Mash, you use the word reckoning, as cricket begins to reckon with the scale of the task it has ahead of it and the scale of the role that it can play as the world's second most watched sport in terms of raw numbers. I would deeply love to get into all of those matters, but we should get on to matters of representation, and we do have our guest Gurfraz Riaz from the National Asian Cricket Council waiting. Anujal, we've linked to your article on Law in Sport in the episode description, so you can register and read that for free.